Well, it's been a quiet week here in Lake Scapagon, my hometown. This week, the Squids are joined by a special guest, Masaki Liu. He shares stories and audio treats from throughout his musical history. Topics include 5-Minute Walk, band retreats, 5-Iron Frenzy, Mike Knott, live recordings, and more.
Hello, Brock, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Yo, does it work now?
Yes.
Oh, so you can hear me eat this pepperoni stick.
No.
Mm.
Only the Hello.
That's so good.
Hello, Didis, my old friend. I've come to podcast with you again.
Okay, here we go.
On a pickle home companion. While you eat an onion. Wait, pepperoni stick.
That's right, yeah.
I'm glad we don't have
I'm not against
smell-o-vision because of your breath. And that is why it's the sound of Dick Broadus.
Am I the last one to podcast from the car? I finally
Kevin hasn't yet.
Have I done it?
You have.
I don't think I have.
have you not? I feel like you called from a van or something one time, Brock, didn't you?
Yeah, you were in a vehicle. Maybe you you weren't driving necessarily, but you were in a vehicle.
That's right. Yep. For the Crispin Cringe podcast.
Yes, but also
right.
for ours.
But also for another one. Yeah.
Don't worry. Time out. Jared's audio just isn't good this evening.
Is it picking up any sounds? Do I need to mute?
No, you're fine.
No, you're good.
I like road noise.
You're just not. No road noise. You just aren't podcast microphone. That's all.
Yeah, right.
But hey, happy Failure Puddle Friday, guys.
Yes.
Happy Failure Puddle Friday.
We are on our second year of doing this.
What?
Wow.
I feel so old.
When did we cross that threshold?
Today?
Last week.
Wow.
When this comes out, it will.
Time out.
Wait, we're in the future, guys. I forgot.
Guys, I was thinking about it the other day. I recorded our a video for our pitch for this whole thing. Where in the world is Pete Hutchinson at the Newport Jazz Fest, which happened last weekend.
Yep.
Wow.
I know. I had a moment while I was working this weekend thinking of all y'all, thinking, man, this is right about when this whole dog and pony show decided to take off.
Yeah. Last year I was running a mile a day and I recorded my About Me video while I was running, right? Or I was about to.
You were camping.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so we're changing it up. So instead of Brock in the woods, we got Jared in the car for this one.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect.
All year long.
That'll be our motif for the next year. Exactly. Jared's going to drive everywhere.
We're going to have no
He's
listeners.
going to commute to Furnace Fest.
Mobile podcasting studio.
We're going to have to get you that dongle, brother.
I probably missed it. Jared, are you driving home now? Is that the thing?
I am. Yep. I'm in
Okay,
the car.
yeah.
I've got an hour and a half-ish left.
There we
Something
go.
like that. I did get asked the question today of tell us something about yourself, not work related, that people might find surprising and give us a little more insight into who you are. And I thought for a second, I was like, do I go there?
Have you heard of a pickle home companion?
I chose not to go there.
That's probably smart.
What did you choose instead?
I went adjacent. I said, I really like music, but particularly punk, emo, hardcore, and the indie DIY scene.
Nice.
And I like going to shows. And they were like, of course, they're like, so do you like Metallica?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Tonight.
Hey, here we go.
Yeah.
Good news.
Hey, sorry about that.
No, sorry about the details. It's tricky because Jared is driving right now.
Oh yeah,
And
no
he's
problem.
listening in, but he had a big day today. So
Okay, well, I think I'm ready to go. However you guys want to get this started. I just didn't know if you wanted to get any, in the front end, any formalities out of the way or anything like that, as who I am or any of that sort of just kind of stuff.
absolutely, we will introduce you. Yeah.
And we might even do it at the beginning of the episode.
Wow.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, from episode to episode. Sometimes it takes a while to we started obviously, but to acknowledge that we started, that's
Yeah.
the trick.
Yeah, for sure. It's always kind of a nebulous, are we started or not?
Exactly. Well, yeah, right. And it's sometimes it's unclear depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, hey, Kevin, what day is it?
Hey, it's Happy Failure Puddle Friday. And it's the beginning of the second year of our podcast.
Come on.
That's right. Yeah, it's surprising it snuck up on us.
I know, huh? But we have a special guest with us today. Brock, take it away.
Absolutely. Well, we're here with Masaki Liu, best known perhaps for the producer and operator of One Way Studio, but also contributed to so many records. We've been talking about how we've kind of slowly been turning into a 5 Minute Walk podcast in some ways at some times. And Saki was behind a lot of those. So either behind or as part of the bands or what have you. And so I'm excited to dive into the details. I think Jared and I were texting, and I quoted, I think is it the Sermon on the Mount that the kingdom of heaven is like a man who brings out of his storehouse treasures new and old. And I think that's what we've got tonight in digital terms. So Saki, thanks for joining us. Really great to have you with us.
Oh, it's so great to be here. It feels like an honor that should not be bestowed. I just feel like I just do what I do, So the pleasure is all mine. So
we're grateful for you doing what you do, and I know you've got any number of things that you're prepared to play for us, tracks that people may never have heard or may never have heard isolated or that sort of thing. The Pro Tools rig is up. I can see the waveforms. That's exciting to me.
Same.
It would be difficult to list all the projects that you are a part of. I know that I know you probably most as the person who brought Five Iron Frenzy to the fore, and that's kind of part of our organizing principle. What got us all together was Five Iron, and so you've been involved with them. But a lot of the other 5 Minute Walk bands, you were a player in a Dime Store Prophets.
yeah.
You had some time with Lifesavers, and I was trying to figure out which spelling of Lifesavers you were a part of, but definitely you had some time there. What rises to the top for you? If you talk about where you've been in music production and who you've played with, what you've done, what are the things you think back as, oh, this is maybe the thing that either people know best or the thing that you like maybe associate most with?
So that's a great question because it's interesting that a lot of the identity side of it has been related to like the Christian music side. And like part of the movement in the late 90s, early 2000s, trying to think like, Five Iron had played their last show when their first hiatus, or whatever you want to call it, 2003. So it's I mean, that's like 22 years ago or so, something like that. And so for me, highlights were definitely just the experiences that it afforded me, whether it was being a player or being just even on tour. Like I helped road manage Five Iron on the last tour, and I even went on a tour with the W's as kind of road manage front of house, and just different opportunities that that we were afforded, like mixing Switchfoot at a live show at Cornerstone when nobody hardly knew who they were.
Awesome.
Or like I think of some of the highlights too of like something like mixing Pedro the Lion on one of the midnight stages. Like I just walked up to Dave and we knew who each other were, and I'd helped him on some minor things, and I'd say, hey man, you need a front of house guy for tonight? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I just hopped up and I mixed, Pedro when they're near their peak, that was, whatever the album was right after It's Hard to Find a Friend. And, and I still adore it. I went and saw them recently, when he came through, and it was just so cool. But there's also like this other side of a lot of the stuff that I do that's not very familiar with the Christian market and stuff like, I've worked a lot on the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club's first album, which is
Cool.
still regarded like their, people love that album from them. And got to see, worked with Robert and Pete and like literally when they were just still in high school. And like, oh, most Robert was in high school, Pete wasn't, but and when they had their original drummer, that was here just studying from the UK, and heard some crazy stories and just stuff like that, and so that was kind of a interesting thing for me too, just to know that, like, wow, sitting in my corner there are all the Black Rebel masters and things like that, and and I work a lot with this other guy that like a lot of people don't know. He's probably still my biggest client because I don't do the studio full time anymore, but like I work a lot with Elton John's bass player. Although Elton John just recently decided to, he's kind of done.
Right.
He's only doing a few special shows here and there. But just talking to guys like that and Elton and like, like about, Matt Bissonet's his name, and I got to work. His brother's one of the most, famous drummer, Greg Bissonette. If you're a drummer, you probably know who Greg Bissonette is. So I got to work on Greg's solo album as well because Matt was producing it, and I get to interact with the where I live in the Bay Area. There's just a phenomenal community, even in my little town. Like the other day, I was helping out a friend at their show, and his name is Steph Burns, and he's literally probably one of the most famous guitar players in Italy.
Mm.
And he plays with this guy Vasco Rossi. Of course, zero people that'll listen to this podcast will know who Vasco Rossi is.
I'm
If you look up,
unfamiliar,
yeah, exactly. Nobody knows because he only sings in Italian, right? So there's not really much potential for American crossover on that. But if you look up Vasco Rossi live, you'll see some of the most insane. He does shows the size of Taylor Swift, and and things like that, and you know. But his guitar player lives here, or well, has a second house here, and he has kids here, and he originally got called out to work with this guy quite a while ago after he was done with Alice Cooper. And so, like I just hung out with him, and then the guy that was playing drums with him was Joe Satriani's former drummer. The bass player was the former bass player for Boston.
Man.
Like these guys, just hanging out with these guys too is kind of like, well, you're legend, and you're legend too.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you're legend. All three of these guys are legend in the general market, versus just, like, and I can, if I say like, yeah, Reese Roper was in my wedding, and and Brett from the W's, like these guys are legend too, but on a much different stage than
Sure.
Than the Christians. So there's this whole other side of the community that I've gotten to know in this local area. Just even one of the keyboard players that was recently on one of these gigs with this kind of circle was like, oh yeah, I was Shania Twain's music director for 12 years. Like
Right.
okay, yeah, that's decently big, and he's telling me stories of his time and literally like in the studio with Mutt Lange. You know what I mean? Like,
Come on. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like he,
Right.
yeah. Like, okay, yeah. So you just tell me as many stories as you can.
Right.
And
right.
here's the most bonkers thing about this guy. This guy also, because most of those guys are Nashville cats and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, I was also with Carmen for 2 years. I'm like, you mean like Carman? Like
Yeah.
the Carmen? And he's like, yep. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many questions.
What a champion. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Right. So there, yeah. So I really see like the entirety of the career that I've gotten to have doing this. And I'm not a guy that's like, hey, I didn't win Grammys. Don't have, numerous gold records lining the wall or anything like that. But I have just nothing but gratitude for the life I've been able to live. And I don't even like, it's the best place to be at, you know what I mean? To find yourself in gratitude and not bitterness, like, oh, I should have
Right.
done this, I should have done that. That's just no way to live. And it's no way for me to model living for my kids. And so, and for me, of course, the highlight of my life is my family and my kids, and just being able to invest in them and spend time with them. So all of that still like, so a lot of this stuff, working with 5 Minute Walk, even, sitting at the Dove Awards or whatever, all that pales, like it's just, well, it's nothing compared to, the time I get to invest with my family and my kids.
Awesome.
And so that's, but it did give me tons of stories, and my kids are still sometimes shocked or amazed, sometimes with some of the stories I get to tell them. They're like, "You did not do that," and yeah, we did that. Some of that was regret, and like, yeah, the house that you're growing up in, we've had like 35 people here, all from 5 Minute Walk and Five Iron Frenzy and W's, all crashing out on New Year's Eve and doing karaoke, and getting the cops called on us and stuff like that, because my house. One thing that was really fun about the 5 Minute Walk experience is that it was local, right? Frank, the label was local. It was in Concord. I live in Benicia, which is 10 miles up the road. And so when Frank, he would have all the bands come out here. And of course, back in those days, you didn't, like, it's like Frank's like, I don't want to pay for hotels for these guys to be out with you for a month. So I'm like, I'm single, we got some rooms at the house. It just became like this party, work party atmosphere. It's like I guess it would be the college experience that I never had because I didn't go to college.
Sure.
A bunch of guys just, I mean, what's better than that, right? A bunch of guys, we're all working on music, and then we go home and play Halo, and until we couldn't stand it anymore, and then get up and go back into the studio and start making a record again. And a lot of these records did very well, for the Christian market. And so that was, it was a wonderful ride, and I still get to do a lot of stuff in the studio, but it's definitely, we've all seen the evolution of music, the devaluation of music. I mean, I try to explain this to a lot of people. A lot of times, like at one point, and this is hard to imagine, but you'd pay $15 for 12 songs.
Right.
Brock here is probably paying $35 for 12 songs all the time because he has the most unbelievable. Yeah, it's the most unbelievable record collection. As if anybody's falling, on that.
Kind of you. Are you also a record collector?
I am not, and
okay.
So
you make records. You don't collect them.
Yeah, the only records I really went after and purchased were stuff that people re-released that I worked on.
Sure.
And it's very ironic that I've bought those. You know what I mean? I'm like, check it,
right.
But like I went and paid for them. But my kid. The shocking thing to me is that my kids, for whenever they have a friend's birthday or something, they're always buying vinyl for them. And then my daughter just went like, hey, can we go to Rasputin's? If you're a Bay Area person, the legendary Rasputin's music store, Rasputin's and Amoeba. But she's like, I want to buy some CDs for my friend for her birthday. I'm like, CDs? She's like, yeah, she has a CD player in that. Yeah. So we at one point you would pay $15 for 12 songs, or nowadays for $10 a month, you can have the entirety of the music industry in your pocket. The entire music industry in your pocket.
And you can pay the entire music industry almost nothing.
Right.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? How do you scale that? $15 for 12 songs, or the entire music industry for $10 a month.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a sustainable, scalable model.
Right.
For artists, so I mean, if you're getting millions, but it just makes the middle class disappear.
Right.
It's the Price is Law thing. The big just keep getting bigger and swallowing, just steamrolling over everything. And that's really, been a big shift. And that's part of a lot of the reason why Frank decided to close 5 Minute Walk. And I decided, well, 5 Minute Walk is about 70% of my revenue. That puts me in a weird spot, And
his decision, but yeah, it changes your life quite a bit.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, and I maybe I could back up a little bit, and since you guys mentioned the whole 5 Minute Walk thing, I can give a little bit of history of like how Frank and I met, and which I thought was really interesting.
That'd be cool.
When I think about this, going back, I remember I was into the youth group thing, and this was a little bit post that, and I had my studio already, and somebody said, oh, there's going to be like a Newsboys concert in Concord, which is kind of like that. Concord is it's a city that's 25 miles outside of San Francisco. Shows don't come there, they go to San Francisco, Berkeley, or Oakland. So I'm like, Newsboys, huh? I kind of this was This is when they were, I think, the I'm Not Ashamed era or something like, way
Okay.
back
Like
then.
early 90s.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
before they
So
broke big.
yeah, exactly. And Frank was trying to he had done lots of events while he was in college and decided, hey, I'm going to come home and do some events. And so he did this, and I went to it, and I'm like, he took a bath on it. Like hardly anybody showed up.
Okay. Yeah.
And then at that time, back in that, I mean, he lost thousands of dollars at that. And then he hosted another concert, and it was the 77s. And
Ah,
that
yeah.
time, that was, back, that may have been pre-Island record, or right around when the Island record came out. I adored the 77s. I love them. I don't know exactly where I got introduced to them, but at that time we were all digging for Christian music as much as we could, and in our limited capacity there wasn't really Christian radio,
Right.
so we would be scouring like the Christian bookstores as we would for whatever,
Yep.
and 77s were out of Sacramento, and so they
Yeah.
were
Yeah. They were
local.
local, and they were almost like there's almost nothing like that in the market aside from them, right? There wasn't like post-punk really to speak
No,
of.
Not at that time.
no,
No.
no, not at all. You're talking artists like Brian Duncan, and you
Yeah.
Right.
know,
Twilight
I
Paris.
did, yeah, yeah, exactly. And that, oh yeah, probably at that time, Michael W. Smith did The Big Picture, which was felt like so innovative. This felt like finally something
Hmm.
that could compete in the general market, right? And, although it didn't, but it felt like, wow, this is really legit.
Like
And I remember,
they switched from saccharin to NutraSweet.
yeah. So Frank hosted a 77s concert, and I went to it, and it had decent amount of show up, but still like, maybe only 100 people or something like that. And so I talked to Frank. I'm like, I want to be part of what this guy's doing, because I
Right.
can see that he's trying to do something cool here. So at that point I already had friends with PA systems, and I said, hey, what are you doing? Like how are these shows going for you? He's like, it's a little rough. The biggest problem is the production costs and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, you know what? I have a friend that's got a PA, and I'll help you out. Like
Won't be
to
too hard.
lower your
Twist
costs.
some knobs, make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. And my buddy loaned me a pretty, he would come in and load in a PA and load out a PA for $200, and it was like a good, decent enough PA for 500 to 750, so we started that, and then he started this thing called the Scream, and then as that started to do better, he started bringing bands in, and I'm trying to think pre 5 Minute Walk what bands were even brought in. It's kind of hard to remember back then, but then at one point he said, hey, I'm thinking about starting a label, and he'd mentioned this thing called My Brother's Mother, and which is the Andy Prickett from Prayer Chain.
Right.
And
Kind of like pre-prayer chain or post. I was trying
no,
to remember what the
Prayer Chain was already going. It was a side
Oh, it was.
project.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
And so he showed me, and I'm like, hey, it's pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna try to do this. And then he started to look for some additional things. And we talked about my band at the time. I think we were Radiation Ranch. We might have been Nine Red Roses, or that time period is a little bit of a blur. And then I think that was when I think Black Eyed Siva may have been one of the next bands that he came across.
One of the real
And
early
then
ones that got signed there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, and I still, at this point, we hadn't even toyed around with, he was still looking for bands wherever, kind of more finished products and things like that.
Right.
So he did the Black Eyed Siva thing, and then he's thinking like, I'm trying to think who was Black Eyed Siva, and then there was my band, and then so we did that, and that
And
must have
your
been
band at the time, you
Dime
said a
Store
couple different
Prophets.
names.
That would have been,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
that
that
would have
one.
been
Okay.
Dime
Yeah.
Store Prophets. Yeah, because we had already done our own demo of Love Is Against the Grain,
Yeah.
and then
Which
we
is real hard to
decided.
find.
Yeah, I was gonna try to dig up a copy for you, and I realized I don't even have one.
Oh
So
wow.
Right. Right. Right.
yeah,
If you don't have it,
fortunately,
probably nobody does. Right.
yeah, yeah, they're out there somewhere. And the funny
Yeah.
thing is, and then so he decided to release that, but then we changed up a bunch of the songs. There's like a few different songs, and those songs that were changed out were stuff that was from what we called our Radiation Ranch demo, which was pre-Dime Store, but it was almost the same members, and we were called
Gotcha.
Radiation Ranch. So then, yeah, he put that out, and then I just remember that's when us and Black Eyed Siva embarked on this thing called the $5 in a Blanket tour, and just kind of started doing this thing. And at that time, it was such a cool thing because Brandon was just getting going too as well with Tooth and Nail, and at the time when I first met Brandon Ebel, he was still working for Frontline or for Frontline.
Frontline, yeah.
Yeah, he was working for Frontline. I remember having lunch with him. He's like, "Yeah, I got this punk band. I'm gonna sign. I'm gonna try to do the, maybe it was Crash Dog. I can't remember, but he's like, I'm gonna start my own thing." And I'm like, and I was having lunch with him, and he would probably never remember this. I only remember because he went on to do just unbelievable things with what he did, and he did that, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, that record hit.
Right.
And he's all of a sudden Tooth and Nail, became the juggernaut of that, and 5 Minute Walk was more like a little bit of the alternative thing, we weren't quite the juggernaut, but that Tooth and Nail was, and so it was kind of like basically the natural progression of Frontline, you know what I mean? Because Frontline was still underneath kind of like the majors on some of that stuff or whatever. Sparrow, or I don't remember. Frontline was still kind of underneath some stuff.
Right.
And so
the biggest distribution and not really open to the alternative stuff, right? Like they were pretty closed down, which is why Ebel was like, I got to start something new because they don't want any of these bands that I'm finding.
Right, yeah. But to Frontline's credit, they did like sign Undercover and the
Right.
Altar Boys and things like that. It's just even talking about this, I'm like, oh wow, here comes some memories. But I remember, yeah, I mean that was in high school. That was stuff that I was really excited about, like the Altar Boys, and I got to guitar tech for them once when they came and played Christian night at Great America Parkway.
Cool.
And I think at that point it may have just been Mike Stan's solo. I know I did a terrible job because I'd never done it before. And so I was like, I know I can hand you a guitar, But here's a great story about that. I was there and I walked outside of the place because it was still like an hour or so before Mike was supposed to play. And this is actually what I really remember about that day. I turn to my right and I look, and it's James Hetfield.
There he is.
James Hetfield was there with, at the time, his girlfriend, who, her and I didn't know her, but her and I had a mutual friend.
Oh wow.
And at that point, like everybody knew in the Bay Area who Metallica was. I mean, everybody knew. They were so up and coming. I think by this time they may have been on Ride the Lightning. Somebody would actually try to track the dates. They'll be like, yeah, your memory's really screwed up. But they weren't, like mega stars, you know what I mean, at that point.
Right.
And I turn, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're James Hetfield. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, and you're this girl, I can't remember her name. And I said, hey, do you know so and so? He says, and then I actually spent more time talking to her. But then I'm like, what are you guys doing here? It's like Christian Day at Great America. And he's like, is that what's going on? I was wondering what the F was going on. Like, they had just basically picked that day to go to Great America.
Just wanted to go and have a day. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, well, that's really cool. Hey man, I love your band, and at that time, I mean, because Kill 'Em All came out when near like my freshman year. So I was already driving myself around. So, Metallica was definitely already moving along in their career. And so it was fun to see them, like just something like that. It's like, wow, that's an odd run-in,
That's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
The chance, just the happenstance that you would actually be there at the same time.
Yeah, that was a huge detour. So I'll go back
That's
to
okay. You were guitar teching, and
Yeah.
is this in what were you doing? Like obviously kind of handing guitars, tuning guitars, that sort of thing. But
yeah. And that was it. I did that for Mike Stan once. I'm not even quite sure how I originally even got. I think I may have literally wrote them a letter.
Okay, because I was going to say, was there did they ask you? Did you have a relationship or any sort of connection to them?
No.
But no,
I
it was just,
zero
hey,
connection.
here's a guitar.
Yeah, I think I'd seen the Altar Boys a few times, and it was one of those things that hey, I love you guys. If you guys ever come up here, something like one of those things. But I honestly don't even remember much of those concerts anymore. I know I just saw. Which they may have even come to the Scream that Frank was putting on. And if I start thinking about the Scream days, it's really hard for me to sort the timelines, but I don't know how many times we had Mortal there,
Right.
and Pedro and the Lion and Sixpence, and obviously the Five Irons and all that sort of. There was such a great scene. Even sometimes Sunday. I remember that was a pretty intense concert. I enjoyed that one quite a bit, and I got to mix all these bands, and do front of house for them, and that was super. It was a great thing because at that time there was a scene,
Mm.
right?
I was just going to ask, did you know, like for example, sometime Sunday, did you hear the records before you saw the band, or was it like I'm just going to mix sound best I can for a band I don't really know?
A lot of the bands I followed, but then some of them I
Okay,
didn't. Like when
all
like
right,
Grandma Train came through, and I didn't know their record at all, and I was just like, you know what, loud guitars, powerful drums, make sure the vocal can be heard above everything else. We're gonna
there
be
we
good.
go. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that'll
Mortal
keep
was
the moms
more
happy.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mortal was more fun because it was more track and more interesting. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
they were doing some. The Mortal was. You also felt like these guys are pretty legit.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah,
They know what
and
they're up to.
exactly. Yeah, and Gyro and Jerome were. They're both really, really nice guys, but really you could just tell they're smart.
Right.
Yeah, innovative, right? They're doing things that aren't being done, especially in that
Absolutely.
space.
Yeah, yeah, and then Fold Zan was amazing too because also they had Frank Lenz as the drummer, and
Mm.
I don't know if you guys know much about Frank Lenz, but at the time
Yeah,
he's like, okay, this guy. Well, when we first met Frank Lenz, he may have even played with Mortal. I'm trying to think, but he was a totally different person than he is now. Like he was just coming out of school, literally was wearing Sperry topsiders and the Izod shirt, and
Right.
if you
Right.
know him
that was a big
now,
deal
you'll be
at that
like,
time. Yeah.
yeah, it was just like, wow. But then he got behind the drum kit and he smashed them like I've never seen a guy in that space do in this world. And so
Mm.
I was like, this guy's crazy and he's awesome, you know?
That's
And
so
then
cool.
yeah, I ended up hiring him for the Roper record. So he's drummer
That's
on that
right.
particular record. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was great. He was wonderful to work with. He just hits well and great timing, great feel. That was really fun. Here's a great story too that I can when I go back think about it. It's like I remember when we were on that $5 in a blanket tour with Black Eyed Siva, and we're just kind of trucking around the country playing, sometimes to five people and sometimes to 200, depending on the show. But when we came to Denver, they said, "Oh yeah, you guys are just openers for a headliner." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." And it was Five Iron. And
Oh.
so literally we got there and we played our shows and then I may have even mixed them that night because I think we provided PA on that tour. And I watched them and I was stunned that first there was no real, again, this is pre, album release and stuff like that. I'd never seen anything Christian that was ska, you
Mm.
know. And so I was like, wow, this is cool. This is really legit and they're killing it. I literally when we left the show, I pulled over. I said, "Hey guys, I got to go make a phone call." Literally had to go to a payphone, right? After the show, I called Frank and I said, "Frank, I just saw a band that you need to sign." And that band that headlined this show tonight, you need to sign them. He was kind of at the time like, well, do they love God? And I'm like, I don't know, but I think you just need to sign them. um, I just saw so much potential there, and like this is like nobody's doing this. This is so ahead of its time in this market, in this space, and the funny thing is, we were still mid tour, and we just kind of forgot about it. I just said, reach out to him. And then we came up to Cornerstone that year. Or actually, it may have been before that, or I can't. And there was a 5-minute walk stage at Cornerstone, and we were just wrapping up for the day, and we're just getting ready to pack up and actually leave. We were leaving a day early because some of the bands had to go to other shows. And Reese comes walking up. I was like, "Hey, we were wondering if we could play the 5-minute walk tent." And I'm like, "Oh man, I'm like, aren't you that guy from that band?" And we ended up, not crossing paths, like, and I just, yeah,
Right.
I'm sorry, we're on our way out. That was an interesting one too, because we saw at that time third day was a brand new band. I remember walking over there and like, yeah, it was like, hey, there's this big buzz on this one band. They're paying to like, 100 people in a tent, and they were just tearing the tent down. It was tearing it down. They were back then. They were really ripping it up, and then later on, Frank told me, yeah, I contacted them, five iron, and I think they're gonna sign on with 5 Minute Walk. And I'm like, we're gonna go, we're gonna do a big band retreat. This is one thing that Frank did that was better than any label has ever done. He would take all the bands that are on the label and take them on vacation for a retreat.
Awesome.
And yeah, we only did it a few times, but yeah, and he's like, yeah, so they're gonna show up to the retreat, and then they're gonna drive home, and we're gonna just record their first album with you. I'm like, okay, okay, good. I guess that time, yeah, we must have been booked open. So so we went to the retreat. 5 Iron shows up. The retreat was up in Oregon somewhere, and then I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I hardly knew him. I just said, hey, I love the thing in Denver, and we started talking about stuff, and what direction you want your albums to go, and do you want it more second wave-ish or third wave? Well, actually, third wave wasn't really even a term at that point. You know what I mean? If you think about it, because there was some of the bands were out there already, like probably the Boss Tones or things like that, but it wasn't really like classified. You know what I mean? It's heavily.
It hadn't quite had its cultural moment yet, right?
Yeah, totally. And
Like it
so
was still kind of building up to it.
Yeah, exactly. So then we drove down to my studio in Concord, and I was like, so where are they going to stay? Frank's like, can they stay with you? I'm like, yeah, okay. And,
Why not?
that's, but there you think about it, it's not a small band.
Right.
It's okay. They play Halo.
Yeah, exactly. And so we started in on that first band. We recorded the upbeats and beatdowns was done in 8 days.
Wow.
So we really just pounded right through that album.
So that's pretty quick, right? Because like your standard album, I would imagine takes
a month.
It can take as long as you want it to, I suppose, if you're not happy with it yet. But yeah, that's like an accelerated timeline. You're working hard, fast, and
it's a demo,
and it's all there.
Yeah,
Right.
It's practically like a 12-song demo, but it was really fun working with them and just seeing all their personalities evolve from that. And like, wow, they're really young. Like Brad was 18 at the time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I call him Brad, but yeah, it's everybody was, Leonore was, Jeff the girl really at that time. And she was like maybe 19 or something like that. They were all very young. It was really exciting time for all of us. You know what I mean? Like this was kind of like, wow, this is also my first foray into kind of like a label record for 5 Minute Walk, And so I'm trying to think if we had done any like other than, the dime store stuff, so which was my
And you were
own,
kind of
so.
self-producing Dime Store, is that right? Just like it's
Yes.
you and the band, and you're just kind of putting it down.
Yeah, exactly. And I listen to that stuff now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have done this so many things so much different. But that's kind of how we all, retroactive or retrospectively look back at most of our stuff, But so that's how Upbeats came out, and it did really well, and it deserved to be really well because if you saw 5 Iron at that time, they're like, this might be one of the funnest bands you've ever seen.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so true.
Yeah, and one thing that I've told lots of, 5 Iron for me is such a good reference piece, man, because when I've worked with a lot of other bands, even with the 5 Minute Walk bands and stuff like that, it's like so many of the 5 Minute Walk bands were like already like, oh, like the W's were already huge 5 Iron fans when they came in.
Right.
And when Frank found them and brought them in, and like, and I just say, here's the thing about 5 Iron is that people don't like 5 Iron. They love 5 Iron.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You think of bands that you like, like, hey, I like them. Maybe I'll go see their show or whatever. People loved 5 Iron, and there's such a connection with the lyrics and the energy of the songs. It wasn't just, yeah, I like them. They're cool. It's like, I love them. You know what I mean? And kids would walk up to their merch table, like this is the difference, like people go like, okay, my parents gave me $100 back then, which is a lot of money. Let me see. Okay, maybe I'll buy that and that. People will walk up to the 5 Iron thing, they would walk up and say, lay down the $100 and what can I get for this?
Yeah.
Give me all you've got.
Right.
Exactly. Like the merch, I've never seen a band at that time do merch like they did. You know, they would outsell POD, you know what I mean, at a POD headline show. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you know, they would,
Which is kind of a no-no, right? But it
Yeah.
worked.
yeah,
I mean-
exactly. How can you do that?
I mean, I was that kid. I know. I laid down that money and was like, "What can I get for that money?" So I'm relating with your story right now.
Yeah, it's not like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't want to. Maybe I'll buy that one shirt. It's like,
Yeah,
I'll take that
yeah.
one, and that one. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. I have this much money. I want all this, but what can I get with this? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's you know, it was like Dime Store was not a merch play. You know, it's like, oh, we went to a big festival and we're like, we did 1,400. And like, what'd you guys do? Like 35,000. I'm like, yeah,
There you go.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, so they would. It was amazing. But it was fun for me because I'm definitely not one of those guys that you know, and this is part of the, you know, the juxtaposition of gratitude is that, you know, you revel and enjoy your friend's success, not be jealous of it, you know. But that was mostly what I saw working with bands, is jealous of other, you know what I mean? And that's human nature. But, you know, just the, like, how that's really fun to watch those guys kill it, you know. So, but yeah, so that was kind of like, you know, the early stages of the 5-iron, and then, you know, we went through Scott leaving the band. That was the most difficult record to make, because that was the first record that they decided to do in Denver, because of all the band tension that was going on.
Yeah, all the
Frank
hype.
felt like the one previous to that, the EP, yeah,
Quantity is job one. So
exactly. Even the name itself.
did Scott track? 'Cause I thought he played on the record, right? But it
He
was
did,
like,
yeah. But that
right,
was it.
And then he wasn't part of the band after that, as they were
Yes.
playing that material, touring with that sort of thing. So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I remember it. And so there was a lot of tension in the band at that time. And if you think about the you know, they wanted to. I think from what I remember, they wanted to take almost a year off because they had rocketed to so much success real fast and were on the road so much doing stuff. And then they're just like, we need a break. And then Frank's like, look, right now we've got some major distribution and some stuff coming up, and you know, Reese really needed a break at the time. That was also near the time. Yeah, that was actually near the time his girlfriend that he thought he was going to marry dumped him, and so hence the name of the album, Quantity is Job One. That's where that comes from. Is like they felt like we just have to keep outputting even though we don't want to, literally at
got to
that
keep
point.
moving units. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Quantity's job one. And that was also the whole idea of the song Ugly Day. You know, that's I begged Reese. I was just like, do not use her name in the song. Well, yeah, you can see who won that argument. But yeah, so you know, and that was part of my, you know, like my philosophy back then of working with bands, and you know, like was the idea that like I want to be very transparent to the band. There are some things that we've argued over here and there, but so much of it was how can I bring the best out of you and still, you know, try to make it as viable as I can. But I definitely wasn't one of the guys that's like, okay, I'm going to rewrite this for you, or we're going to do this, or I'm going to take stuff away from you. You know what I mean?
yeah. Producer can mean a lot of things, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
producer means you are the band. Sometimes it means you are the songwriter, and sometimes it just means I'm going to help you do what you do as well as you can. So,
Yep, exactly. And so some of that stuff, you know, well, yeah, there have been times where I've done stuff where I'm like, I'm not proud of what I did as a producer, because, you know, I'm like, well, yeah, I think we need a little bit of intervention here, you know. But but that's just what a producer does. It's like, you know, and some of the, but with 5-iron, it was always like, let's be transparent, let's play around with some stuff. You know, like one of my favorite things that I've gotten to do with them, I remember was when we did Giants. You know, like if you listen to that track, there's a lot of kind of crazy stuff going on with that, and we really got to play around with that, and especially actually, you know, because that was the departure of Scott. And so, you know, now the chief songwriter's gone, right?
Right.
And so now we're like looking at things and going like, okay, well, like the amount of material that they came to me was so diverse,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can't remember what's the song that has a lot of percussion in it. That was so fun because like I'm like, well, nobody here plays percussion, but we want to have like a cool percussion. So like I got a connection to Santana's guy. And so he came in and Carl Perazzo
That's
and
cool.
just he played on it. He was super chill and super nice and just like, yeah, this is cool. And like, but he's like, you're Carl Perazzo with Santana, you know what I
Oh
mean?
my gosh.
And
Yeah.
then oh, and we also
Yeah,
brought in
Solidarity had Carl on it and Randy Stonehill.
Randy
That's it. Randy
Stonehill.
Stonehill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
huge
it.
at that time.
Yeah. So, but let's see. So here's really some of this session right here that we're looking at right now, which is kind of fun, is these are just basically the ADAT transfers. So back in this day, we were recording on this format called ADAT.
Mm.
And then it was basically you were recording on the VHS tapes that would do 8 tracks at a time, and then you would sync, have several in sync together. It was still it was
Yeah.
kind of like the next evolution of tape, but literally.
And that's not digital, right? It's still
It
analog.
was digital. Yeah, it
It
was
was,
digital.
okay.
Yeah, it was digital onto the ADAT, and that was
Okay.
that was the big transfer. It's like yeah, it sounds super clean, and ADATs had their sound, but so as the ADAT phenomenon started to die out and people were moving more to Pro Tools, I still actually have some of those ADAT machines here. Most everybody's like, oh my God, we got to transfer stuff to Pro Tools or something, to a digital format. So these are just raw, just straight from the ADAT tracks.
There we go.
The kilts are black, hosers take off. It's not how to be where yaks can run free. Where oil mountains.
And so at that time we were recording on ADATs and so if you look at here are some of the cool titles, like here's one of my favorites. This is still today one of my favorite songs.
1970. My sister and I in the back.
One of my
Down the road in September. I was only 5, but I still remember where the highway turns at the bottom of the hill. My parents both up front because they loved each other still. Maybe just a coat made of plastic.
Did they say anything? I don't know. There's some just dirty tracks. But yeah, and here's of course the most iconic one right here, right?
Versus himself. Man versus himself. Men versus machine, men versus the world, mankind versus me. The struggles go on, the wisdom I lack. The burdens keep piling up on my back. So hard to breathe, to take the next step. The mountain is high, I wait in the depths, yearning for grace and hoping for peace. Dear God, increase healing hands. Oh God, have mercy on us.
But yeah, I mean, what more iconic moment is there for that band?
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a good
Wow.
story behind that too, because it was the last day that they were scheduled to record, and we were literally like going to start mixing the next day, and this was the last song that we were recording, the last song on the album too, and we'd already gotten we had sent some of this is kind of an interesting, we had sent some of the tracks for some reason. The label at that time, because of sampling, there's so much litigation going on and for just people not, copyright infringements and things like that. And so they actually Frank called me up one day to say, yeah, that song that they said, Every New Day. Yeah, they said you can't use the horn line in that. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, and so here's the original horn line. Okay, now I can isolate the horns. Okay, so let's try this. Here.
There we go. Coming through perfectly.
Yeah,
Thank
all right,
you.
cool.
So that line, that one,
Mhm.
that
Yeah, the iconic
originally,
one.
yeah, well, it actually and I still remember this. It used to go da 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 da, and the lawyers came back and said you can't use that. It sounds too much like I want my MTV.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
It's just like the
Yeah.
intervals were the same intervals, and they said
Yeah.
that's too much.
Yeah, they said you can't have it.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
so that was kind of an interesting one, but then it changed to that. you know?
Yeah, and no one's more litigious about their music than Dire Straits, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, with that, and that
Well,
was,
it
but
wasn't.
I think it was funny because that song became kind of like almost a meme for that day for MTV, right? And so it was so well known, you know what I mean? That I want my MTV, you know what I
Right,
mean? And
right.
so
Right,
I
right.
think they just felt that it's so close, and
It's
so
like too close. Because the thing was with Weird Al, Weird Al
Yeah.
was almost not allowed to parody the song because I think the guy, I'm blanking on his name now, the guy from Dire Straits,
Mark
Mark
Knopfler,
Knopfler. He
yeah.
said, "Okay, you can do the parody, but I have to play the guitar line." I think that was the thing.
Yes.
It was
Oh
like he
gosh,
was so locked down about
Wow.
the song and the music and everything. So yeah,
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't, that's, but yeah, so Dennis came back with that horn line and we tracked it, and then
yeah,
so
and it's
we're
a good
getting to
line. We like it.
oh yeah, we're getting to the end of the record, and Reese didn't have this bridge yet,
Okay,
and it was kind of like, bro, like we're coming to the end of the day, you know
we
what I
need
mean?
something
Like
here.
we got to do something. He's like, yeah, I know, I'm just. And he said, just give me a little bit of time. I'm like, no problem. I mean, this is, so I just left for a little bit, and it was probably about a good 2 hours. And he was just literally like, I look at the lights are all down in the control room or in the track room. And then he, like after a while, he finally came out, and it was probably a good 2 hours later. And said, I think I got it. You know what I mean? I've been just agonizing over this, and that's what he had. And I'm like, that's pretty powerful, dude.
You're right.
And so, yeah, I mean, without that section, you know what I mean? It's like, the song would be just another great 5 iron song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
But
the hinge that kind of turns from the dark section to the light section, or from like from one mode to another.
yeah, exactly. And it really, it took the whole song to a whole nother level.
And that's the line that still like that whole section still gets like Furnace Fest
Goosebumps.
last year.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Oh,
had
yeah. I
goosebumps
mean,
listening to it just a moment ago.
Right.
yeah. Yeah, because all you've associated with all these other, experiences,
Right.
and for me, it's like, I mean, there wasn't, I mean, at the last show, I mean, when they finally did
Yes.
that, I was in tears, but I was also
Same.
like, oh,
Yep.
I can't wait to go
Same.
home.
Yep.
Were you guys at the last show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there. Kevin was there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I was
that
not.
was
I didn't see them
yeah.
live until 2022.
Oh wow, yeah. They were so fun. They were just I never got tired of seeing them. Well, let me ask one of you guys, what are the last few concerts you guys have been to?
Well, Pete was just at the Newport Folk Festival, right?
Yeah.
You were
Thank you.
working
Yeah.
there.
I just thank
Yeah.
you. I worked I worked the Newport Folk and the Newport Jazz Festival last 2 weeks. So
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
had
So
some
you've been around a lot of music.
yeah, I had some Bela Fleck, had some Esmeralda Spalding,
Oh, cool.
Questlove played. Well, the Roots played,
Oh,
but
that's really cool.
yeah. So we had the Philadelphia Experience, which was Questlove. Oh gosh, I was just stoked that Questlove was playing our stage. I work in the food industry, so we were one of the vendors, and we got
Oh,
to
cool.
we were at one stage, the quad stage, all weekend. So any band that played there, we could hear, but we couldn't get
Yeah.
to the other stages, and the Roots were supposed to play at the main stage. We were at the
Oh,
next stage, but then all of a sudden I heard and Questlove on drums, and I'm like, we don't have a line. Boom, beeline. You
yeah.
know?
I'll be
Yeah.
right back. It's
I'll
my
be right
break.
back, boss. And boss is like, yep, go ahead. I heard it too.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah. What about you, Brock?
Oh, my most recent. I'm trying to remember like chronologically what happened most recently. I know Pete and I just went and
Troubadours.
saw my
Yeah.
brother-in-law. Yeah. They had a band back in the 90s and they just did a 30-year reunion. So that was fun. It
Oh,
was just
yeah,
stuff
that's
that they
great.
wrote, kind of American indie rock, like maybe adjacent to Dime Store, similar
Okay.
sort of vein in some ways. But also I just in April I saw the Folk Implosion, which was a fun show because I'd been hearing their stuff for years, and they had been broken up since what 2099, somewhere in there. And they did this tour again, made a new record, came to Seattle, and I got to see them then. So
Cool. What about you, Kevin?
Last one I was at was a couple of us from the show here. We went down and saw Squad 50 play down in Savannah.
That was a great
Yeah,
show.
weren't they from Georgia?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so they did a DVD screening of the documentary about them, and then did a show afterwards.
Oh, cool.
Squad 50 is here to stay, available on all media platforms.
Good job.
There you go.
And their state flag sucks.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Yeah. The only time I think they came through the screen maybe once, and then I think I saw them on a few 5-iron shows. Like when we would go around and they would open up, or maybe it was Cornerstone. Did you guys ever go to Cornerstone or any of that stuff?
I wish. Oh, I wish.
I wish I could have too.
I've been to Creation Fest and Soul Fest and Kingdom Bound, but I never got out to Cornerstone.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because so where are you located, Pete?
I'm in Rhode Island, but I was at that time in New York, so I was up in the Adirondacks in New York, so I could.
Gotcha.
Kingdom Bound was my closest, and also Soul Fest. So
yeah,
back in New Hampshire days,
yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
and Kevin, you didn't go to Cornerstone either, right?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
Okay.
I really wanted to. Cornerstone, Purple Door, Tom Fest, like those are all ones I really wanted to get to, but
I did get to 1 year of Purple Door, and that was amazing. Me Without You, Reliant K. Goodness, there were so many other great bands, but I got to 1 year of Purple Door, and that was my cornerstone.
Where was Purple Door at? Was that in Minnesota?
It was in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we played it once, but I don't. It's again so much that stuff runs together.
Right.
But yeah, and where was Kingdom Bound? I remember we did that before.
Right outside Buffalo, New York. So is in Western New York. It was at the Six Flags, and then they also for a short time did. Kingdom Bound did an offshoot near me, about a half an hour from my house, called Kingdom Bound at Great Escape, and that was in Lake George, New York, which is other side.
Yeah, I remember Kingdom Bound. We did a show with 5-iron there at one of the stages, and this is so Reese.
Is that when they got kicked out?
Well, what happened? They didn't. Yeah, they got
or not invited back. I apologize. Not invited back.
Yes,
right. Yeah. I was at that show. Yeah,
you were there. Yeah. So basically, what happened is he basically said, "We're not selling merch here because the festival or Kingdom Bound's taking 50% of the merch."
Oh yeah.
And they refute. There's one thing that was really amazing. Also, for all the people that were spending tons of money, 5-iron also refused to sell their merch for anything above double. So if the shirt costs them $8, they would sell it for $16. That's it. You know what I mean? Whereas more what band does that? If the shirt costs them $8, they're like 30.
Hard cap. I mean, Fillmore was close, right? Because they made real cheap shirts, but
yeah,
but nobody does that. To your point.
So they're like, okay, well, if we still sell them for 16 and they take half, what's the point? And they I was there. I was standing on the side of the stage.
Yep.
And when Reese came walking off, one of the guys from Kingdom just laid into him. Started screaming at him. And then Frank had not heard. I'm like, "Oh, you didn't see what happened, Frank?" And I'm like, Reese said this, and Frank just went, "Oh, no." And I was like, and so he went and he took care of it. He said, "Hey, I'm sorry, blah blah," but he smoothed things over.
Right.
But that was, so you were at that show. Yeah.
I was at that show. I mean, obviously, I didn't know until years later the behind the scenes part of it, but I knew that they weren't invited back, but I was there. I remember him from the stage, saying that, and all us all us punk rock kids were like,
except for boo, I can't buy merch.
right, exactly, yeah, but yeah, exactly. Actually, you're right. That probably was me at that time, but still,
yeah, that was.
Right.
Oh yeah, I think I played for this the other night, but this one's always fun to listen to too.
Yeah, I was at Newport Jazz, so I didn't get to experience this. So thank you.
Yeah, like for the longest time, because of how many shows I was involved with, I decided not to go to shows at all for many years until just recently. My kids got really interested in going to shows, and so they're at that age, and so I went to a couple shows with them, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is fun. I do like this again.
Remember what you like about it, yeah, because it's hard when it becomes work, right? I feel like it's kind of like having a pool in your backyard. It's like you think if you have a pool in your backyard, you swim all the time, but it turns out you about the same amount as you would usually do it if you had to go somewhere else. And
Exactly.
the some of the fun gets sucked out if your job is cleaning the pool or whatever. It's like
Right.
you've got all kinds of
And it's hard for me not to
reasons not
analyze
to go.
and I sit there and I just analyze the shows, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
of
I'm
course,
just like,
right.
but you know, on the pro circuit now, things are so like, especially with the indie bands. My daughter loves indie bands, so we went and saw a band called the Army, the Navy. Really cool, really great stuff. And but you know, I'm just like, wow, the sound person's doing a horrible job. You know, like this is really
'Cause I would
bothering me.
imagine you could probably do it better, right? That's part of it. It's like I know what's wrong here. I could fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And then with the you know, but then I have, you know, I am really pleasantly surprised with how good things have gotten on the pro circuit. You know, you could say it's pretty contrived because there's so many people using tracks and stuff like that, but it's kind of like it's kind of like the movie Solo. You know, like everybody hated that movie. I went with my son. We had, you know, at a movie theater that had really good food. I was just like, you know what? I walked out. I was entertained. You know,
Same.
This will be fun. Yeah, stuff blew up.
yeah.
He completed the
I was
castle
entertained.
run. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need, you know, story continuity. I don't need all these little behind the scene things. You know, I just walked out like, all right, you know, the guy who played Solo, I wasn't great about that, but I was still entertained. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so you know, and I spent it with my son. So,
Exactly.
but yeah, here's one of those things that people always like to hear too. Is here's the behind the scenes of the Animals.
A classic.
That I can't. The horses was a sample we threw in there from somewhere that I probably, you know, did some license infringement on. But
Speaking of, right,
Oh, you were at the pasture. I know you were.
Mark Knopfler's like, that's my horse. You got to.
yeah, exactly. I know. I mean, the monkey was one of the 5-minute walk interns, and that was like one of the coolest things too. Is like when we were doing this stuff, you know, like the 5-minute walk was also, you know, had a young crew of people working there, and everyone would just hang out, you know, the labels. And as much as like I have a lot of I was at that time a youth volunteer at a youth group. I did that for quite a few years, and I literally brought 5-iron to one of the youth events, and we all played like street hockey together with these youth group kids, and I brought the W's to them to these youth group events. And so like all those youth group kids just still adore these bands, you know, from back then. But it's kind of weird, like, wow, yeah, we played this Steal the Gold with 5-iron, you know, like, you know, it's just, you know, that was kind of a really fun time.
That's
but yeah,
wild.
I wonder we did use, we had Click on that. But this again, this album was so fast, you know, like it's which is
really breakneck pace.
The cool thing about it is that it was something that they're also, you know, like with a lot of bands' first records, they'd played the songs over and over and over, right? And all of a sudden now you got to write for your second album, and everything's like, you know, sophomore slump, right?
Sophomore
because
slump,
like you haven't thrown out the bad ones yet. You're just like cranking out what you can, and you haven't played them as much, and you know.
Yeah, it's like a B-sides record. Your second record.
Yeah. You know, there's Dennis.
Like that guy on TV. Well, I know that if I had just the right outfit and hairstyle, then could be me. Don't you know you can't be cool?
It's a good delivery.
Yeah. So here's this was fun recording. I gotta try to, if I can remember how we did this.
Okay, for me in America, everything's
Nice.
free in America, or a small fee in America. I want to be in America.
And they were kind of like overemphasizing the accent, you know.
Everything's free in America.
Yeah. So yeah, that was very
so
apropos
cool.
for
So
our
much
day right
energy,
now.
so much fun. And I mean, credit to you working with this to be like, hey, we got to bring this in. I'm assuming you probably had the idea, like we need some crowd noise, we need some excitement here.
Yeah,
Or did those suggestions come from the band?
it's hard to know. Yeah, some of it was collaborative and some of it wasn't.
Yeah.
Some of it was from them, and there's like one of my absolute favorite songs was where is it? Here we go. Oh, these are all the working titles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotta make my screen bigger so I can see these.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're yeah. I don't know what kick him in the Jimmy. I'm trying to remember.
We are an audio podcast, so you're
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll
So
blur out this if it's a low light. Yeah, right.
is this
Shorts shall rise.
Okay, is this PTF file? This may have not even been maybe an incomplete song. Let's see. Let's see what this is. I haven't opened this since
We're about
quite
to
a
find
while.
out what Jugs and Crotch
Here
sounds
we
like.
go. Come on.
Yeah, oh, let's see. What is this? Okay, so there's. Oh no, this was a song on the album. So this was obviously a working title.
Okay.
Juggernaut.
Juggernaut.
okay.
Jugs and Crotch.
there you
Jugs
go.
and Crotch.
There you go.
That's the studio magic right there.
And that's why I'm the lead singer of Five Iron Pussy. No.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But this one's one of my favorite, Farsighted, and this was one.
So good.
Yeah, I think the lyrics are so brilliant on this one. Like the metaphor and the energy of the song, and like the interplay between the guitars is really cool. This was really fun to see. Like post Scott. Like because Scott is brilliant. If you listen to Scott, I've always thought that about you. But Scott is very, very brilliant. I don't know if you listen too much of the solo stuff he's done. Yellow.
I was going to say you produced the Yellow Second stuff, right?
I did some
Or
of.
you
I
worked
did
with
some
them,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah, I worked with him on some of it, and but that stuff is brilliant. And
the far-sighted, the sky has never been so clear. Hello to the hopeful, goodbye to the full of fear. Glorious, luminous, the heavens are painted, have brushed you with angel wings.
here we go. Just I see. Oh yeah,
so cool.
This was all just pre-divided. Yeah, so this goes back on different mixing techniques that we did on this. Let me see. Where's my IO?
And that does bring up a question, but you're in the middle of looking for something,
That's okay.
so I'll
Yeah, no,
ask it
go
once
for
you're
it.
done. I was going to ask about, I feel like everybody who works in music production would be known for certain things, would have certain distinctives or certain approaches that kind of make their stuff stand out. What would you say some of your distinctives are if you had to pick? Like, what are the things you focus on, or the things maybe you care about that might define your production style?
Yeah, I think for a while there, I mean, when I was doing, before even the label stuff, I did lots of local bands. At the time, I opened the studio just like anybody else. Like, hey, I hope I can get some customers, and so at that time, there was the Bay Area metal scene was really big. Like, I mean, we produced obviously Metallica, and and then there's lots of other bands that came out of here on the thrash scene, like Testament, Forbidden, Death Angel, and things like that. That were just all like part of this big Bay Area scene. And so I ended up working with a lot of bands adjacent to that, and so for me, I think what helped me was like I definitely had this more like been known for like getting kind of like these mid, the rock type guitar tones and stuff like that. I wasn't like the absolute total heavy metal, guy, but I think I was more known for aggressive rock and things like that. And I tended to mix guitars on the louder side and with a little bit more edge than some of the stuff that gets more subdued. And so
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at like what you did with Dime Store, like nobody would say that Dime Store was a hard band, but I think that like you can hear it. Like the guitars are loud, and the guitars are definitely prominent in that mix.
Yeah, and I think that's generally how a lot of this stuff goes down. But I was also like, even with Dime Store and Five Iron especially, for me, I always knew and this is gonna sound weird, but I mean like, Reese was a star. You know what I mean? And the idea that like, if I didn't get his lyrics to connect with the listener, then I failed, because his lyrics are brilliant. Like I still think to this day, out of a lot of great lyricists, I mean, I think Reese is up there amongst the best, whether general or not. How could you? I mean, like, okay, like how could you listen to Dandelions and not, as a parent, and not just feel like, oh my God, and just Blue Comb 78, the metaphors, and just the way he I mean, consistently too, just even how angry, like you just feel the anger in the most recent albums, and so for me it was always making sure that his voice was connecting, like even a song, Sucker Punch, you know what I mean, like how many kids listen to that song and goes like, that's me. You know what I mean?
Get in line for a wedgie.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was it. That was the connection that made people not like Five Iron but love Five Iron. You know what I mean? Just like that was the thing, that the lyrics took it to the next level on that for them, and that's why. But like so I remember on this particular song we didn't have a chorus. What about, was it here? Yeah, this section originally right there didn't have the vocal in it, and I just kept listening to it, and it was just a big horn break, and I was like, it's just not like the rest of the song has got so much power. The chorus is so good, it's just got so much energy, and then it feels like this is the letdown. You know what I mean? So I remember I was like, Reese and Dennis, actually, I'm like, let's talk about this section and see if we can figure out something for this, and
let's add something else to kind of keep the energy up.
And literally, it's one of the coolest parts of the song. Oh yeah. So that just becomes like this iconic moment. That's the kind of like the difference, and sometimes like trying to exploit as much as what you can, to try to take to the next level. And and that's interesting. I forgot that these two guys sang on that. Justin McRoberts from the 5 Minute Walk.
Yeah,
nice.
This was a guy that hung out with us a lot too, Mick, and there must have been that was fun. This is a really one thing that's interesting too from back in that day. Justin McRoberts, he's a very prolific artist, whether it's writing books or music and stuff like that, and like he was very overlooked on the 5 Minute Walk label because of bands like the W's and stuff. But it was interesting, like probably when I look it down, like my catalog here, it's like there's so much Justin McRoberts. Wow. Let's see, here, Project Soul. Yeah, so this is JMC, that's McRoberts right here. This is all McRoberts right here. Things like that. And here's one thing that's really interesting too that a lot of people don't know. Like, and again, since you guys are so entrenched, you may not even know. back in those days, there was a kid that hung around our studio a lot, Mike Busby. And that name may not ring a bell to you, but if I mention that name in Nashville, everybody knows him.
Oh wow,
And so
Sounds
Mike Busby,
familiar. He was a
it does sound
pianist, right?
familiar.
yeah. So Mike,
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing. He passed away. I mean, I was just talking about this with a friend, like how it's still so unbelievable. But he passed away when he was 43, and that was just a few years ago. And at the time that he passed away, he was probably the number one producer in country music and pop music. He was just a kid that came and hung out at our studio, you know. And he, you know, like I remember when we were while we were record, you know, like he would interject and be like, hey, and every one of his ideas were always brilliant. And then he would sit down and play piano, and we had him play on some records, and he was just brilliant. I'm like, this guy is going to go some crazy places, and it's going to leave us all in the dust. And he did. At the time that he passed away, he won a Grammy posthumously. You know, like, and like you definitely know some of his songs. Like, you know, one of my favorites that he ever did was "Try" from the band Pink, or from Pink. You know, if you've ever
Oh
heard that
wow,
song.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's his song. So I'm gonna just hold this up to the camera. I'm not sure, but this is us in the studio with Justin McRoberts, and then Joe Satriani's drummer was playing drums, and then Mike Busby was just there, and it's you know, yeah, he's the one in the red shorts.
There he is.
And you know, like, you know, he wrote like he wrote "Holy" for Florida Georgia Line. He did, you know, like he was a monster. Like he made Maren Morris. You know, he was just like this, and he was just hung around the 5 Minute Walk camp all the time.
She was just a Newport folk, Maren Morris. That's cool.
Yeah, he made her.
Wow.
I remember we were sitting around, I was texting him one day, he's like, hey, I'm working with this new artist, and it's really cool. And he's like, yeah, check out, I'll send you some tracks. And he's played it, and it's like, all right. I'm like, and you know, it was really fun because we're talking producer to producer, but at that time, I'm like, he was already far exceeding anything beyond what I would ever have done. But I'm like, bro, whoever's playing drums on this is monster. And it was Aaron Sterling, who just won Drummer of the Year. I mean, he's one of my favorite drummers of all time, you know. And I'm like, bro, this groove on 80s Mercedes is ridiculous. And, you know, just like if you sit down and listen to it, it's like, yeah, this stuff is ridiculous. And so, you know, he was 5 Minute Walk adjacent. He played on quite a few of McRoberts' records and stuff like that. And it's just weird to think of, you know, he was just a kid, and then now I'm calling him and he's like, yeah, I don't know, I'm heading to the studio with Garth. And, you know, like, yeah, he did that song, one of Garth's last big hits, that People Loving People. That was him, you know. And this was a 5 Minute Walk kid, you know. He went to a lot of them. Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting thing, you know, and he was never shy about that kind of stuff, but he was, you know, he was always, yeah, this is what you know, it was kind of fun to see that we were at least part of his development, you know. And then he just went way beyond us, you know, like, you know. And again, for me, you know, like I hold no envy. I'm just like, wow, that is just the coolest thing that he, you know, he was able to achieve that, and his talent warranted it. So that's yeah. Here's another fun thing. Oh,
I
here's
was
one.
just poking around Discogs, and I saw that it looks like he played on that Tremolo record with Justin Dillon as well.
Yeah, Aaron Sterling did too.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that Aaron Sterling. I mean, Justin sent me the tracks. You know, we were still on good terms after, you know, all the big fallout. But Justin sent me the tracks, and I was like, he's like, yeah, I'm thinking, you know, do you think we should chop them in Pro Tools? And I brought him up, and I'm like, are you sure you haven't done this already? Like, it's some of the most spot on drum tracks I've ever seen. I've never seen drum tracks this spot on. And I'm like, I mean, I could try it, but there might only be a couple of tiny, tiny shifts. But he would also do that, and then also make it sound like very, very cool. You know, like just like, you know, just crazy, like groove and stuff like that.
It had accents, it had inflection, but it was also like on time. Like it was.
If you're a drummer listening to this, go find Sterloid on Instagram, and then you will see some of the best grooves you will ever see, because he does a lot of stuff just for Instagram here and there. Just sets, you know, he has drum kits set up in his house, and you'll just play, oh, here's some grooves I'm messing with. and they are ridiculous. Like, and I don't say that lightly. They are ridiculous, how good he is. But yeah, and so So anyway, so we sidetrack a lot. But going back to like
Welcome
going
to the
back
podcast. You're good.
going back to going
kind of our
to
brand.
shows and going to shows and stuff like that. I know. So I started going to see shows again. So and now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is costing me so much money.
Yep.
But some of them, I mean, like, and this is going to be so people are going to like, some of my friends are like, you really went to that show? And I'm like, yeah, like literally probably my favorite show that I saw in the last 6 months was Meshuggah. And I don't know if you
Nice.
I don't know if
Well
you're
done.
familiar with those guys, but
Yeah,
to me, they represent what I love about music.
sure.
And this is what for me, music is always about connecting with the person, right? When you listen to, there's some songs that just leave you blasé, right? Like you literally get like, and I hate saying this, but it does nothing for me, right? I've said like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of Steely Dan? I'm like, it literally does nothing for me. And I know that all producers are supposed to like Steely Dan, but it literally does nothing for me.
I'm not a producer, but I'm with you. I'm not a huge Steely Dan fan.
I mean, I can appreciate. I can say, okay, I can see why guys like this.
Yeah, right.
But again, it's just like, it does nothing for me. But then, a simple song like Communication from the Cardigans,
Yes.
that song floors me. You know what I mean? I feel such a connection to that. And, it's literally my daughter's top 10 songs of all time now, cause like she understood what I liked about it. Or like, the band, the Cocteau Twins, which are widely influential on me and the stuff that I did with Rivulets and stuff like that. That was the Cocteau Twins are widely. And so Meshuggah represents to me, like, this is extreme of like how guys can make music feel powerful. Just like this, really just like, the show was phenomenal. It was just so much power, and I get the odd time signatures thing. I can barely follow it myself, but it was like that show was incredible, and actually 2 weeks ago, I think me and my buddy went and saw Baby Metal, which I absolutely adore them.
Oh my gosh, they're good.
I adore them. I love it. It's people is like, that's like, Backstreet Boys for metal, but they listen to the riffs, and how well it's executed and how heavy some of those riffs are, and that was, and then I mentioned the other guys the other night, Jacob Collier.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the most phenomenal, to me, like, there's connection there between like what humans can pull off. Like, wow, it can be just, beautiful and amazing, or it could just be, and simple, or it could be like, just like powerful, or just like Jacob Collier. It's like, you're just taking music farther than where people have left off,
Right.
and even like, you think of this, I brought this up, just because, again, this was a very controversial artist, that never got a lot of credit, but very much a lot of credit in the Christian market. But one's pushing harder for the mountains that he pays. Mike Knott, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you just think about,
I
like,
say, I thought I recognized the voice.
Yeah, so you just even listen to like, like the way he delivers his vocal. It's not perfect. It's but it's like the Mick Jagger thing, right? Where it's not perfect by any means. It's not in pitch, but there's just so much style. One's got a compass and another's got a maze. One's pushing harder for the mountains that he pays. It's just getting heaven high. I don't mind getting heaven high. It's just like there's just some, there's reason why he was considered brilliant,
Right.
and troubled, and we all know why he was considered troubled. But I got to work on one of Mike Knott's records through this guy Josh Laurie, who is the guy who kind of really spent a lot of time trying to revive Mike's career, to which probably the person most barricading it was Mike himself.
Right.
You know, he was the biggest speed bump on trying to bring success back to him. You know, but you know,
and
like,
that's the tricky part, you know, for anybody who kind of is one of like a charismatic personality that kind of like so magnetic that like they draw not only the success but also the trouble.
Yep. Self-destructive, you know.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and he was, you know, he was bearing a lot of pain and
Yeah. Although it's interesting that dissonance existed like in life, right? There was friction and there was texture, but there's also like it appears in the voice too. Like you can hear
exactly
with those things happening in life, the voice itself is circling around the note. It's not quite in pitch, or it's got raspy textures. Like it's the rough parts that people grab onto.
Absolutely. Like we're not necessarily looking for perfection, right? You know, we identify with our mistakes, with our humanness, you know.
Right.
Like,
and perfection doesn't sound good, like just musically speaking. Like you need some of that grit to make it sound good.
Yeah, and unfortunately this is a very overlooked album. I guess Josh released it under the Lifesavers. But this is really it was really fun doing some of this stuff, you know. It was challenging too because Mike was also self-destructive in the studio, you know.
Sure.
Like, medicating a lot, and you know, but I think there's some cool, brilliant stuff in this stuff, and it was kind of like, okay, are we gonna even have the opportunity to capture this? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, all right, we're gonna have to call it a day. You know what I mean? And you know, because we can't get anything. You know, that kind of thing.
Keep going. Yeah, we've reached our
end. Yeah, and compared to what Josh went through, it was nothing. You know, compared to the stuff that he put up with. You know.
Sure. Right.
But yeah, and so here's some other stuff that we're going to be working on in the near future too.
Wait, what?
So this is I don't know, there's some this might be too early of a reveal, but yeah, you know, we
can find out, but this doesn't have to be in. It's fine.
I think Reese had already talked about on a podcast about re-releasing some of the Brave Saint Saturn stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also we're talking, you know, and I hope I'm not undermining Reese in any way, but yeah, we're also talking about remixing this album, which I've already done one remix already, and of my favorite song. Actually, part of me just remixed this just to see originally before you know, this I really like this song a lot, and so I was messing with it, and one day when I had a little bit of extra time, and I was really pleased with the way, you know, even our old tracking on some of the stuff was like, okay, a little bit better mixing, you know, knock on my own self, but you know, it'll. You know, threw a few extra sound effects and like that snare hit right there. And that's, you know, the brilliant drumming is Frank Lenz.
Yeah.
We have
come on. Yes.
Added an extra sound effect in here somewhere. Real small stuff, but if you compare this sonically to the original, it's so much bigger. Yeah. this is like a common technique for producers. Add a distorted. There's.
You're getting the grit mechanically there, right?
Yeah.
It's do or die.
Come on.
Jumping from the sky. Back your cabins.
There's the.
Ran out to Miami.
Yeah.
It's do or die. Jumping from the sky. Back your cabins. Ran out to Miami. Lock and
And is that like
load.
overdrive?
Save your clips.
Yeah.
This could be your last ride. The first one that gets his body plundered. They have to beach at 0600. Saving the world while the world's asleep. Get some American flags while they're still cheap. It's do or die. Jumping from the sky.
Here's a little
Back your cabins.
tip of the hat to Radiohead.
Ran out to Miami.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Man, very nice. And on that vocal, because Reese is a powerful vocal, but he's also like pretty clean. He's got like a really like smooth tone.
Yeah.
And so you need some like audio sandpaper, right? To kind of rough it
Yeah,
up a little
exactly.
bit. You need
Let
to
me see
like
if I can,
double the
where
vocal
is-
and give a little bit of that crispy edge.
Yep, exactly. Let me see. I can see if I can. You can. Oh yeah, actually, I did it. I actually did it mostly with the compression plugin. Looks like.
Okay.
So what do we use on this? EQ. There it is. It's called Devil Lock.
Audio level destroyer.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good plugin for any nerds that are out there. But for Pro Tools nerds, yeah, Devil Lock from Sound Toys, great plugin.
And
Fun
and
one.
we're looking at your Pro Tools rig here, but people listening might not be able to. How would you
Yeah.
describe what you're doing with that? Because you got a couple layers, right? One's clean, one's more dirty.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know the first one, the clean one, kind of takes the dominant position on it, you know. It's, but then that, so if I mute this, that's without it. And that's back with it. It just puts a little bit of an edge that, you know, it kind of takes it over the top a little bit.
Right.
And if you feel a little bit of grit on that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is
Like
kind
you don't
which
want
is-
raw tofu. Tofu is good, but you want it to have just a little kind of a crispy edge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that helps, and so much of this stuff is about subtleties and different things like that.
Because you also don't want burnt tofu. Like that wouldn't work either.
Exactly. Yeah, and there, you know, there are bands out there that, you know, especially with a lot of amateur mixing, and I don't want to, I'm not criticizing anybody, you know, because people
Right.
do their things, but you know, everybody takes different approaches to things, right? But yeah, so you know, some people tend to overdo things, and that's fine, you know. But
If that's how you want it.
Yeah, sometimes I'm just like, yeah, you know what I mean? And then some people tend to mix very safe and things like that, you know, which, you know, try to go for the pop formula. And I tend to try to carve a little bit of my own path, but I tend to, in my more recent stuff, I just put a lot of vocal emphasis, you know, to make sure that whatever's happening there ends up, I don't even know if this stuff will open up. Let's see. This was an interesting song too, that like with rivulets and stuff like that, this is kind of, you know, like my own pet project. You know, we did a bunch of songs that we never released. And I'm hoping to finish those off someday. It's you know, it's one of those, oh yeah, bucket list type stuff. But if you followed 5 Minute Walk, you probably heard of that band, but maybe, because we did one record on 5 Minute Walk, but it wasn't our main, you know, it wasn't a big thing. The reverb plugins are missing, but very Cocteau Twins influenced and stuff. I wrote this song. We wrote this song for a friend of mine who just had a baby. so it was just a gift to the and I kind of wanted to sound a little bit like, you know, a children's circus.
Right.
Kind of like a dreamy circus thing. Interesting enough that on some of the Rivulet stuff too, I had Andy from Five Iron, his wife sang on a bunch of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, in fact, I introduced them, I believe. So she was one of my youth group kids.
Oh, wow.
You know, well, I mean, I'm older than those guys, right? So it wasn't
Right, sure, right.
No, he didn't meet them then. He met him when we
I know what
did
you're
a
talking
show.
about. Yeah.
No, Rivulets we did a show with Five Iron out here.
Right.
And that's when he met. I really like this part.
No, I was laughing at the connection. That's cool.
That's so cockpit. This just almost plagiaristic. Yeah, so we we'd also done a couple other cool things. That this one was really fun. We did the Whoville thing as a Christmas song.
All the Who's in Whoville.
Yeah. It's not Christmas, but I was really happy with this way it turned out. This was Sam from Dime Store was playing bass on this. This was one of the favorite things we've ever done.
Welcome Christmas, bring your light. Welcome in the cool dark night. Welcome Christmas, Romulus. Welcome Christmas, Damus. Welcome Christmas, while we stand heart to heart and hand to hand.
Oh yeah, this is a fun track. We never released that either. And I just love the
Sounds like it's about time.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Or a few months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what we came up with the bass line. Sam and I worked really hard on this together.
That's cool.
Yeah, we really tried to do kind of like the more traditional like counterpoint melodies on that to go against what was going on there, and then of course the lushy Robin Guthrie type guitars.
And bass tone is hard to get right? I feel like that's a
is.
thing that is like people don't think much about bass, but they notice it when it's off or when it's missing or something like that. But
Absolutely. So most people, and if we want to get nerdy, and if you're anywhere involved with music production, a lot of people don't understand like the limitation of what speakers can reproduce. Okay?
Right.
So your average home stereo speaker or whatever, they're only good down to maybe around 50 hertz. And then if you go to like a bigger concert, even like, like the ones where you feel like your chest is getting pounded, they only go to about 35 hertz. And even if you were to go like to go see like Deadmau5 or something like that, it's going to only go down to 35 hertz. So
like that's your basement floor. You can't get any farther down than that.
Exactly. But then a lot of people don't realize you have to filter out that stuff. This is recording 101, or maybe it's my recording 110. You got to filter that crap out, because what happens is if you don't filter that stuff out, you're sending that information to the speaker. The speaker is incapable of reproducing it, but it's still trying to. It's trying to, right? It's still saying, I'm supposed to produce this thing, but I can't, right? And it's taking up some of your bandwidth, right? Yeah, it's taking up a lot of your bandwidth of what the speaker can handle, and then you'll get to clipping a lot faster. And so managing bass tones is really critical on if you were to even like look through some of my my stuff, you'll see like everything is high passed and filtered above 35, because if you don't, it does cause a lot of problems with that. I've even taught some classes on that. I wonder if I have.
And I'm guessing that's stuff that the average person wouldn't pick up on, but you might still like subconsciously, you might bodily experience some kind of dissonance or what have you, right?
Yeah, well, what actually happens is the speakers can't produce it, so they start to distort, right? And
Okay,
it's more
yeah,
of it's a more of a subtle. It's literally a technical problem at that point,
right.
you know. So yeah, so that becomes very problematic for technically, because then you also can it leads to speakers blowing up faster and things like that. And so I'm trying to find if I can find couple other interesting things before I bore everybody to death.
Oh no, this is great. Oh my gosh.
That's what editing is
I'm-
for.
I wasn't able to join our session this weekend. I'm geeking out
yeah.
here.
Oh yeah, this was fun too. This was one of my also just very fun things I got to do with like with Elton's bass player Matt. Never released this either, you know, like just
wow.
there's a fun stuff that we've just, and he's a great singer too. So, and if you follow him on other platforms or things, he does, this guy never sleeps and just is always outputting something. And he's also literally one of the greatest bass players on the planet. He's definitely in the top of near the top of my all-time musicians list. But this, I mean, it's just fun to just, it's kind of fun to dig some of the stuff, because like, oh yeah, there's a decent little treasure trove of stuff here that's never seen the light of day. Wow, it totally remixes different. This is pre-Coldplay, so now it's like, oh, it sounds like Yellow.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the genre we're sitting in.
Yeah, I think we're pre-Coldplay on
Look at the stars. Right.
Because I was going to say Travis is around the same
That's
time
cool.
too, right? I'm trying to
Yeah.
think of who else this would remind me of, but yeah.
Wow.
the chorus. And it's kind of this is an interesting one, because you know Matt, so we would decide, hey, let's do a few songs together, and I would just send him something, and then he would just send me stuff back. At this time we'd never met, and we'd probably worked on over 30 songs together, mostly his, and we never met. We would just do everything, send files back and forth.
All remotely. Postal service style.
Yeah. Here, let's see if this still has a cool chorus. Maybe this was post Coldplay, and maybe we wanted to do something Coldplay. This isn't the song I thought I was going to do.
It sounds good. I like it.
Yeah.
I would listen to this if I could. I mean, I am now,
Yeah.
but I would listen to it again.
Yeah. There's I'm trying to see if what other. I remember on one song we were trying to get a Coke commercial. That song was super cool, but we didn't get the Coke commercial, even though I thought it was perfect for a Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
What if you could have gotten Pepsi if Coke?
Yeah,
wasn't
who
available?
knows?
Like, would that
No,
be,
because it had it used the da, 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 da. Hope we don't get in trouble with that, because it had the Coke
right,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
We'll have to add some distortion to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Bleep it. Yeah. Right.
Or have Dennis rewrite it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of in that same lane, right?
Yeah. It's just me. Just low. Oh, did we do a vocal on this? Oh, I don't think we ever did. Interesting. Or I may have the wrong. Yeah, I don't even remember that song, honestly. But I tracked it and I play guitar on it.
You can't remember everything at once.
Yeah. Let me see if this is actually what
It's
I
also
remember.
what podcasts are for.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, it's really fun to also, like, I'm not a big bragging rights guy, but like, hey, Matt Bissonette and I
But
get
you've
to
got
work
them.
together.
Yeah.
I get to work with this guy, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And he does bass tracks for me for fun, and just let me see. Oh yeah, this one is. Let me see if is this gonna work. Yeah, so this is how I remember we were just messing around. So this piano, oh yeah, Giga piano, that thing hasn't been around. So this is what's called MIDI, right? These are the notes that trigger a sampling, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So I don't play piano, so I hand wrote in all these notes.
It sounds like you play piano like I do.
Yeah.
I'm no pro. I've just got GarageBand, but I've done a little bit of that when I'm like,
Yeah.
it'd be fun to throw some piano on this.
Yeah. So it's like,
And this reminds me of kind of like a David Gray kind of thing.
yeah, I don't even know. I don't remember what inspired this. Cool chorus, like one of them.
Because it's like break beaty drums, not actual break beats, but it's kind of,
Yeah.
I got that feel.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of like a quick peek into the dark underbelly of my music stuff.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know if I'd get in trouble for this one. Let's see if I can find this one. Would
Only
be,
one way to find out.
yeah, right. Ask for forgiveness later, right? Scott from Fiverr had sent me a couple songs he'd done on piano, and they morphed into album songs.
Oh, nice.
But, yeah, but what would it have been under?
Because Scott's got a couple different irons in the fire, right? In terms of
Yes.
different projects and things he's working. And it seems like he's always creating something,
He's very prolific. Yeah.
which is
Right.
cool.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I need to locate those. I haven't even thought about that.
I was going to ask, I've got a couple more questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Forgive me if they're oddball, but I haven't found a way to fit them into the conversation yet.
That's okay.
One was, I know you worked on the Echoing Green project that
Yep.
was on 5 Minute Walk. You weren't really associated with Echoing Green outside of 5 Minute, right? It was more,
No.
it seemed like, yeah. But you play guitar on that one?
I may have, yeah.
At least that's what Discog says.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Working with that project, I really loved the Echoing Green, what they did. It's definitely not. I mean, they've had guitars in their music, but that record in particular, very electronic, not really a guitar record. So I was curious if you had any either memories or observations on kind of what your contributions were to that record.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed working on that because I really like electronic music a lot, quite a bit.
Yeah.
I really like Dead Mouse a lot and certain things. I also like electronic music because sonically it's one of the deepest stuff that you can do with testing speakers and things like that. So I remember Joey came out it wasn't very long. It was just for a week or so. And because most of his stuff was there, so I think we were mostly just mixing and doing some vocals and things like that. And it was kind of it's a little bit of a blur, but yeah, anything. If I did play guitar on it, which is kind of funny, because I was even reminded of like the Lifesavers that I played guitar on that, and then I was reading a bio on it. It's like, oh, I did almost all the guitars on that record, so it was kind of And it's true, yeah. But I was, I kind of forget that had happened, and so
Sure.
And it get easy to do if you've had so many things going. You've worked on so many projects.
Yeah, so that's part of the problem.
That's to be almost to be expected.
Yeah, so that's always been a problem for me. With just I kind of feel like I've gotten to do so much crazy stuff in my life that I just don't remember as much as I would like to,
Sure.
Right.
And it's just kind of like with any band, I did a lot of bands. I probably recorded over 1,000 bands, right? And I've and then played. There's that touring period in my life where I got to go all over the place. So even those two are separated. Like I can't remember. I can look through my old collection of mastering projects and different things like that, and there's like, wow, yeah, I guess I did that,
Right.
Yeah. And because not everything rises to the top, right? And so, and a lot of it's day to day, right? So do you remember the report that you filed, 8, 15 years ago, right? That you,
Right.
that you
Most
turned
certainly
in.
do not. Right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
not at all.
So a lot of that stuff, there's a fair amount of my life that is a little bit like that. And then once you have kids, any of you guys have kids?
Yep.
I do. Got 2,
Yeah. How old?
6 and 4.
Oh yeah.
And I've
That's
got
fun.
19 and 16.
Oh yeah, so that's really close to me, 18 and 16.
And I have nieces and nephews. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to remember life before them, right?
Right.
Right.
And so, like a lot of my career started in this avenue, started running down because of the what we saw, when 5 Minute Walk decided to close up shop, right? And I saw like, okay, there goes potentially 70% of my revenue.
Sure.
And then that was also right around the same time I got married. And then a couple, that the thing that a lot of people forget is when 5 Minute Walk decided to close up shop was also part of the 9/11 recession. Because there was the recession that hit right after 9/11.
Like economically, nobody was spending a lot of money. Right.
And on top of that, literally, that was the 9/11 years was also when Napster started.
Right.
Napster and LimeWire, and it was literally on. And
Right.
people don't remember
Right.
this. Again, this is one of those things that like rising to the top. People don't remember this, but it still burns in my memory. On the cover of Time magazine, it says, "Get all the music you want for free, and it's legal." You know what I mean? And so, like, you just see, like, okay, so yeah, there goes our our means of living and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And
How's Time Magazine doing these days?
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I think they're still doing okay, but I don't know.
And as Frank said, and when we were chatting with him, is like you can't compete with free. Right.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Right.
And so, you think about that, like, and, even if you are going to be ethical, for $10, I got the entire music industry.
Right.
$10 a month. I have the whole music industry. You know what I mean? Everybody's catalog from front to back. You know what I mean? Just about. So, except for, like several of the 5 Minute Walk bands, you don't, that is something I am working on. I do have, for those for nerdy people that did like Dime Store, it's under my current, there we go, right here. You can see they're in my current projects folder. And,
Okay.
and yeah, like I started remixing this song just the other day. I can pull that up. Sounds a lot better than the original mixes, but again,
Interesting.
yes. So this is in the fire. Might as well just say, yeah, we're planning on I'm trying to get all of the catalog stuff that I was involved with, get those onto streaming platforms, which would include the Dime Store Profit stuff, and then the pre stuff that I did with Justin, the Radiation Ranch, and the and then I'm gonna the Rivulet stuff. We're gonna plan on trying to release that, and if Justin can even get rights back to some of the stuff he did post Dime Store, we're gonna try to just put all that together and get that stuff out there.
Bless you.
Amazing.
Thank you for that. That's fantastic.
Awesome.
I mean, well, and I guess the question is, if it's going on streaming, that's where people want to listen to it. But also, can we buy remastered CDs? Can we buy remastered LPs?
I doubt I doubt even none of us are really that interested in monetizing it.
Okay.
I guess that's a relief.
Yeah, because for one, it's like, okay, we got to manufacture CDs. It's like, okay, well, there's about, do I want to sit on 1,000 CDs and try and
exactly
mail those out?
Yeah.
Like I get it if we could kickstart it and do that and stuff like that, and maybe if we were to do something like that. But Dime Store was never a big band, right? So I'd be like, wow, we made $3,000 off a Kickstarter or something like that. It's like, and then how much work is it for $3,000
people, right?
Yeah, right. And I think there'll be some people that are really
But yeah, you do have
it.
to ask the hard questions about what's viable.
Yeah, I mean, I hate, like at this age, I'm like, what's the ROI on this, right? Maybe it's something I do, after the kids empty nest and I got a little bit more time, and maybe you play around with that, but really time is so valuable to me right now, making sure,
right. And you want to focus on the things you actually want to do.
Well, and I also have to focus on things that allow me to live in Northern California.
right.
There's
yeah.
also that.
Right.
There's also that.
It is a brutal economy out here, but it's also, if you guys have never been, to Northern California, come by. I'll take you out to dinner if you need a place to crash. Here's a very simple thing. The reason why Northern California is so expensive, like this is the most basic economics 101. If nobody wanted to live here, it wouldn't be expensive.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll take you
Despite
up
what
on that. I'm in your time zone. So next time I'm passing through.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. It would make a good picture for the groups.
Yeah, it definitely would.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. You could hold my face up instead of the album, right? So,
right.
But yeah, so
Sounds accepted. Yeah.
yeah. So this stuff is fully in, like it is in works, but the problem is finding the time to remix this stuff, and just finding the time is going to be the greatest challenge. But it's really fun to listen to this stuff and just be like,
Spiritual awakening for the working stitch.
I mean, Justin was a great singer,
The voice, that's what I wanted to say, was the vocal is just so incredibly raw and powerful. And like there's kind of a nice retro quality to the guitar work on a lot of it. Like I feel like it sounds lived in, like it's good tone.
I don't know if you
as
ever
well
heard,
as
like when we originally started, we were not that. When we first started this stuff, let me see if I can pull up an old demo. That's
all right.
fantastic.
I won't complain.
I won't either.
Yeah,
Right.
let's see. So the stuff that from the original Love Is Against the Grain. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so this stuff. Okay, you see it, these waveforms, and you can't see it for those people. This was I did a terrible job transferring, but this was actually transferred from tape.
Oh wow.
Actual tape.
There you go.
So that's why the levels
and tape
were
degrades,
all,
right?
Yeah, and the
Micah,
levels are all
yeah.
square. But this is more true to this may be a little bit more true to the way we sing. We were definitely much more roots rock.
Right. I'm already hearing more like a like it's also old timey, but not in as much of a rock way.
Yeah. Like, we were kind of riding the lines with like bands like the Blasters, and I don't even like literally the loudest shaker in the world right now.
Well, file this under things I would listen to again as well, though. That's important, I think, to say now.
The crazy thing is, I believe this is Joe Satriani's drummer on this.
Oh, come on.
That's right. That's that guy.
Yeah, he's a local guy, good friend.
That's really cool.
Oh, there's a rogue background vocal there.
There you go. It is roots rock.
Now I'm ready for the rain.
Yeah, even like the guitar solos are very like. Twangy.
And is that your solo?
Yeah.
Because I really dig what you're doing there. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's real fun. And that's kind of more along the lines of how we sound. What song is it? Kind of like a little bit blues based and. These are all super raw.
Well, our so-called leaders are getting down on the stage,
This is a real vocal.
making promises of freedom in a nuclear age. Well, they smile really friendly, give the babies a kiss.
Oh yeah, this one I got to have a lot of fun with this.
Well, they're leaving us to wonder how we'll make it like this. Well, now I ain't got no heroes, I should know, so not one. I'm gonna place my faith in the wounded son. different years. We can't let it go.
Yeah, this is what I was saying. Like, I really love the kind of the 1950s, like, rock and roll sort of revival sounds. Which means I have to ask, like, obviously, the 50s rock and roll was a big influence on everybody in some way or another, but it must have meant something to you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was, well. Okay, so this didn't have that was Clayton United. I think that made it to the 5-minute rock release. I don't know, but yeah. So like when we were this band, I mean, we opened for the Stray Cats twice.
Oh wow, yeah.
And and that was kind of the cool things. Like we were really entrenched in the local scene here, with a lot of local bands, and when that kind of stuff existed, local original stuff, So yeah, that was really fun. We got to we played with the Stray Cats twice. We played with Mudhoney one night, and
nice.
It was funny. There was a band called the middle band. We were the openers and then the middle band was called Three Stoned Men, and they
there you go. Was it descriptive?
It lived up to their name.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
they were stoned out of their minds. It was kind of like we got kicked out of the back room because there was so much smoke and stuff. But it was pretty. We played with a band called the Beat Farmers before. They were pretty decently big at that time, and but that was definitely one of the coolest things was playing with the Stray Cats because we saw them at their prime and not like stadium prime, but nightclub prime, and like when we're just sitting there and Lee Rocker sticks his head in our dressing room like, hey, wouldn't you guys help me carry my bass down to stage? I'm like, I just jumped up and I'm like,
I'm here for
yeah.
you. Yes.
and I'm like, and when we pick it up, I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is so heavy, and it's like. And he's like, yeah, it's because I got steel on the inside of it because he stands up on it. He gets up.
It has to be reinforced.
Climbs up the base. Yeah, exactly. It had to be reinforced. Otherwise, he would just smash it. So, yeah. So that was just stuff like that. All these experiences. You know what I mean? I'm just so grateful for them. That
Absolutely. Maybe I can share my gratefulness with you. I've told this. I've spoken about this particular sampler to several of our guests now, but I got the Take Time to Listen to, which that was the sampler from 5 Minute Walk with a number of different people on it. It opened up the first track on that sampler was Dime Store Profits, and I think it wasn't an album track, right? Come Back was on that sampler, but I don't know that it appeared on any of the other records.
Yeah.
So I first of all got to thank you for that because that's a formative experience. I think one of the things that stood out to me because I found it at Goodwill. It was probably a couple of years after it had been released. I found it at Goodwill in Federal Way, and it was right next to a Prayer Chain CD. I think I bought both of them, or I asked my mom to buy them because we were at the thrift store together. Listening to Come Back, I was poking around trying to find it. It looks to me the sample of the preacher who's preaching against rock and roll is Jimmy Snow. Was this so? Did you put that in there? Was that somebody else's idea?
I think it may have been Justin's idea or something like that.
But pulling the song of like this is why I preach against rock and roll and why I believe it's the devil, the devil's music or whatever. And then like using that, like beginning the song with a very long sample of this. Speaking of samples and copyright infringement, who knows? But you've got this, you've got this preacher. I'm like, well, where's this gonna go? And then like it starts with this enormous guitar strum, and you got your tom beats and everything. Like that's a great song. I don't know if people may not have heard it, depending on who's listening and who's talked about. But it's a great song, so thank you for that. One of the things we like to do when we get people together is say our thanks for what we appreciate. But yeah, that was just such a great experience to put that on and be like, wow, this is something different than I've ever heard. And and again, that kind of like retro 1950s sort of sound. The solo was blazing. I'm assuming that's your solo as well. It's quite something. That lives in my memory as one of the better things I've ever heard, and it's just fantastic. And to use the form, kind of the inversion of like you're sampling the preacher who hates rock and roll, but you're playing rock and roll. To express yourself as exactly who you are. And that's all part of it. And that was just fascinating to me, and I want to say thanks for it.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah, especially like I found this in the Christian bookstore, or that this originally that's where those things lived, right?
Right.
It's kind of you could all like, and that is the guitar solo I've been most asked to play by random people, there
There
that
you go.
knew about that. But
Can you unroll this one for us? Yeah.
Yeah, I also do love the fact that like the Old West was 5-Iron's opening track,
Yes.
Right.
and it's like
Yes.
Totally.
it's like, well, that is about as counterculture as you can get. You know what I mean? For the fact that, wow, okay, this is how
Right.
this is, and it's amazing to think that that 5 Minute Walk just said, yeah, what is whatever. Frank wasn't thinking too much about it, but it's like, yeah, that's a pretty edgy song to go track one of their debut album on.
Right.
But it did have, it did have Beautiful America and all that stuff on it too. So yeah,
Yeah.
and they've always taken their stance, and I respect them so highly that, they are the same, they had principles and they stuck by their values. And even to this day, like when I think about those guys, one thing that they, this is probably something that not a lot of people know is, like when you go to a big headline show, like, or a big show, there might be 3 bands like that. Even like, at that time, Ska Mania or whatever. I can't remember what it was at the Insiders, whatever.
Right.
Supertones and 5-Iron, right? And 5-Iron was in number 2 slot or something. We got Blue Mixed. And this is where that whole song Blue Mix come out. And a lot of people don't understand the idea that Blue Mix is that like, is the idea that the opening bands have to play quieter, and they put heavy limiters on the sound system so that they never have the potential to impact the audience as much as the headliner.
Yeah. Intentionally dampened.
Exactly. And it is a very, very common practice. Like it's very common practice. I don't say it's an ethical practice, but I'm just saying it's a common practice, right? And 5-Iron, even on their big, when they were the headliners, they said no, they can run it whatever they want.
Right.
Like they never Blue Mixed. I was there for a lot of that stuff. It's like, no, go ahead. Like with Bleach and on that last tour, like they could run as loud as they could run louder if they wanted. They just kind of like, hey, we hold, it wasn't like this cock, we hold our own, but it's like, we just do our thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, just watching them, handle it that way, and, just saw so much integrity with it, the way that those guys handle things. And that's how I felt a lot about our band as well. And a lot of that was kind of the 5 Minute Walk culture a little bit,
That's one of the special things, that seems to kind of make it stick out, is that you don't hear a lot of people complain. I mean, you might complain about the fact that like you didn't get a tour bus or whatever, but
Yeah.
you don't hear people complaining about like what the label was about.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We were, there was, like even like the idea that even if you wanted to use benevolence as a tool, you know what I mean? But the fact that that's still better than not using it as a tool.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And that was a lot of like the idea of what 5 Minute Walk did too, was, like with, like the very first, that's right. That's what it was. $5 in a blanket, like bring $5 and bring a blanket.
Right.
And then we're going to donate these blankets to a homeless shelter, so that was, like just a great idea, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like,
Absolutely.
and I remember, and one of the other tours we got to go on with was it was called the 20,000 Jackets tour. And everything, bring a jacket, and so you could say, hey, it's a good marketing scheme, but yeah, it's still better than not,
Right.
right.
Well, and that's what Keith from Drive was telling us about, like just that blanket. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that stuck out to him, was just the idea of making it more than just the tour.
Yeah. And it puts a kind of a nice cause to it, right? You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
And it brings a little bit more meaning. But yeah, we can't go anywhere without at least peeking at this one, because this is probably
Yes.
the most infamous track of my career.
And widely distributed, right?
Yeah, the craziest thing, this is one of the highest selling albums that I was been involved with, and it's, I'm really really close with Brett, the trumpet player, but it's all, they were kind of like a caricature, band, you know what I mean? They hit at the right time, the swing thing was just on the upswing in the U.S., and they came to the studio, and a lot of their songs, they were really big 5-Iron fans already at the time. And there were more songs that were kind of like ska-ish on there. And I was like, the ska thing's done. I was like, you guys are not as good as 5-Iron. You just aren't. You know what I mean?
Sorry, yeah.
So Exactly.
Those are
Like,
facts.
let's carve out a different niche for you guys. So
Right,
this
right.
one we did spend quite a bit of time. So we reshaped a lot of the horn lines so they didn't sound like these ska lines, but they sounded more like a big bandish type of swing revival type stuff, as much as guys this age could do. And so, but yeah, it's kind of crazy to like, oh wait, this.
Oh, come on.
Where's that? Oh. Oh yeah. So where did we put the? So somewhere. Okay. So that's interesting. Yeah. So on this transfer, we didn't have the intro. So there's because it starts out that thing and then the kids booing. But
Yeah, which is a great conceit.
yeah. I'm trying to think where that must be existing. We had to probably record that somewhere else, and then we spliced it on. So you're like,
It doesn't matter, just open your mouth and take a tasty bite. Said to him, I think it's a sin, but boy does he look right. Said to her, just take my word and I promise that you see the lie. Why don't you get it?
but yeah, this song was really big.
Oh,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It kicked off the swing revival in my church's youth group. So
Yeah,
You all the devil is
Yeah.
the devil, right?
yeah.
You are the devil and you are bad.
Yeah, it's interestingly enough, yeah, so we had originally record this. When we did this, I remember at one point we realized we actually, and this was really problematic at the time because we were on ADATs. There was a whole another verse that was tracked, and it was like, wait a minute, there's a whole nother verse in here. And we don't
Oh, wow.
want another
they're
verse in
missing
here.
the lost lyrics.
Yeah. So we literally we ended up I ended up having to use ADAS to splice in. That was actually really tricky at the time.
We talked about a physical splice.
No,
Okay.
what we did is I took I synced up two different ADATs and then had them start, and then I had to use time code. I had to write down the time and then offset them and then punch them in. It was
Okay, so
it
you're
was
not
a
using
little-
tape and scissors, but it's like the technological equivalent of that.
Yeah.
Trying
Yeah,
to
I
like
think I
transfer it
don't.
all into one mix that works to be what you want it to be.
Yep. It was a mess. But it did end up work out. So yeah.
Well, no one noticed, I don't think. I have never heard
No.
anyone talk about it.
No, yeah, that splice ended up working out, but I remember at the time I was freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, what
Sure.
am I gonna do about this? So, because even in mastering, it wasn't at that time. It was a little tricky to do.
Was
to do
it
tracks like
another
that.
biblical story in the lost verse?
No, there was no lost verse. It's just like there's a fourth.
Like you never
verse, we
tracked
can't-
vocals for it.
Yeah, like we don't want to
Okay.
track vocals because it
There's
makes
too
the
much
song
music
too
here.
long. Yeah, the song's too long. It's
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, it was. I remember that was. I guess I don't have too many of. Oh no, okay, there it is. So I wonder if I look at this. No, these ones.
Oh man, I
here
just
it
had
is.
another oddball question.
Well,
I got to save
yes.
it until we're done talking about the W's.
Yeah. Well, I do have a W's question. I mean, I saw that they recently they're putting their stuff on streaming. Are you
Yep.
involved
I-
in the mixing of any of that?
Yeah, I remastered it.
Oh, great.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
That's very cool.
Yeah, we were really, really happy with that. In fact, if we look, let's see, that should be in current projects.
Oh, I'm intrigued by that. Yeah.
The W's master right here. That was the remaster session right there.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, but oh yeah, so here he is. Yeah, okay, here's the whole album. So
Or even a firm list
yeah,
Yes.
and talk.
so we still don't have the horn track. I wonder. Yeah, so this was a transfer back. So yeah, I'm not quite sure where that horn track. I wonder if it would make sense that we would stick it at the end of the second set of tapes, which would be this one right here. Let's see what this says.
Got to say, this is a lot of fun for someone who loved the
Yeah,
music
this
to
is
kind of
so
look into
very
the back
cool.
end and see like all the waveforms and all the project
mean,
files and that sort of thing.
I'm geeking out.
Thanks for
Yeah.
doing this with us. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So appreciate it.
And if you use bonus code SQUID, you get $5 off the bonus where we do 5 more hours of this.
On the Patreon. No, keep searching for it. Oh.
I don't know where we even recorded that intro. So somewhere along the way we must have done it, but it's not on any of these tapes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The King of Polyester. Yeah.
Oh,
What does he do?
What does he do?
We loved that song in high school. It was the time for it.
Both those albums were phenomenal back then. Yeah.
Yeah, they were fun. Oh, this is something we never finished.
That sounds a lot more ska.
Yep. I probably threw it out.
I was going to ask, is this the Supertones?
Yeah, I know. Sounds like it.
The W is silent.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I can't remember how we had done that intro. Because that intro was so funny. But it's not.
That's incredible. Did you ask your question, Pete?
Well, I mean, I did, but I do have a question from our Frank episode.
Yes.
Or how he talked about how on the live album for the Proof That Youth Are Revolting 5-iron, they wanted to start with "You Suck."
Oh, right.
And the Christian bookstores obviously didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, this might be this might be for another session, but I'm very curious if you have a mix out there with the "You Suck" in it.
Well, I'm curious.
I love this.
I mean,
well, the question is,
yeah, right.
I don't. So back in 2014 or something, I had a major hard drive loss, and so I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like if I look in this 5-iron folder right now. I don't see Proof. Right.
Okay.
It may not have made the jump.
Sure.
Proof the Youth was the most difficult. In fact, it was the first. One of the first albums I did fully on Pro Tools. I think we tracked it on ADATs and then transferred it to Pro Tools, and to this day, I've never worked as hard on an album before. At that time, we had a deadline, a pretty hard deadline on that. And I was mixing it, and it was, you're doing a lot of cleanup on live stuff. And, so I remember this is still to me like, oh, how did I do that? The last week before the album was due, the first day I worked 18 hours. Second day I worked 18 hours. I did 16, 16, and a 14. That's what I did. I was slowly wound down, but I was sleeping at the studio trying to get it all done and then pushing it all out because I really wanted it to have I wanted it to not feel like a lot of live albums that feel a little bit contrived. I really wanted to have a lot of energy.
Yeah, authentic energy, right? Authentic texture, authentic sounds. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we tried, we were trying to, it was just a lot of just back and forth. Like, okay, sometimes, like, oh, there's a bad note there. But, like in modern day, we would just like retrack it or do something like that. But then I would literally go hunting for other spots in the song where I could drop it in where there wasn't enough bleed, just doing stuff like that. There was like, if you've ever like, I'd love how people are like, oh, we sound so much better live. We want to do a live. I'm like, yeah, go try it.
Right.
You're gonna listen to the tracks back, and it might be a little bit horrific.
Right.
And and I don't know if any of you guys have any done that, but it's like, yeah, wow, it's not as easy as you think it is.
Right. And I love a well done live album, and I will say that the for me, I mean, I'm not just saying this because you're here. Proof That the Youth Are Revolting is one of my favorite live albums. So the fact that you did good work on it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, I will say that to me the best live album I've ever done was the final live album.
Yeah, and that was and that right there for being there was also that just eclipsed Proof because of the fact that it was the severity of it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So what was interesting about that too is that particular album, we recorded the last 6 to 8 shows.
Right.
So we had big ADAT rigs. You know what I mean? Like if you're in at that show, we were like, okay, are we rolling? You know, okay, we can get
Yeah.
going. I think I may have even said something from the stage before the thing started about the recording.
Yeah, you
And
did.
then yeah, and so then what I was thinking what was going to happen is like, okay, I'm going to list all these things and then pick the best performances from the last 8 shows and then compile them into this live album because they the set lists stayed the same, so hopefully the mixes will come out the same, but we just want to get the best performances, right? Again,
Sure.
this was before a lot of people were doing really crazy Pro Tools editing and stuff like that, and I just wanted to try to capture what ended up happening is I listened to everything and then I listened to the last show and that was the best show they've ever played in their lives.
It was insane. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
you
was
didn't
literally
have
the
to
best show
use
that they've
anything
ever
else.
played.
Yeah.
They were all sick, and I mean, like literally physically ill.
Yeah.
But they still put on one of the most incredible shows I've ever experienced from them. Yeah.
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 I literally, and I objectively listened to all the shows that we recorded, and I was looking for like, okay, this is the best track from the show. I'd write it down, and then I'd go to like, okay, yeah, that was garbage. This okay,
Kind of
And then
A B.
cataloged a whole bunch of stuff, and then I just listened to the last show, and go like, this is perfect because
This is it.
it's the entirety of the last show. You know what I mean? It wasn't. There was nothing else from any of the other 8 shows that we recorded. So that was pretty cool about that. I was really pleased. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, wow, we really get to keep the integrity of this thing.
Well, and
Yeah.
I know I can't speak for Kevin in this, but for me, being there, the fact that it was a full, I mean, obviously there were some parts that weren't in there, but that all the stuff that was there on the recording was at that show was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like just hearing the whole crowd just chant thank you afterwards
Yep.
was really that was powerful.
Yeah.
That doesn't
I was
happen
really
at
like,
shows
"Ooh."
a lot, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not not the sort of thing. It's very special.
I mean,
It
I bawled
was.
my eyes out, but hey, giddy up.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Well, the ending was incredible because the band just stood on stage, crying,
Right.
for probably 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, you
At
think
least.
1 minute, like if you're just standing there in front of a bunch of people for 1 minute,
It's a long time. Yeah.
it feels a long time, and they were up there like 4 or 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, and if I remember right, they closed off with a worship song or something like that.
Yeah,
Yep.
they closed it out that way. Yep.
Yeah, which that didn't go to the record, I don't think, or maybe it did. I don't
A
know.
little bit.
I think
a
it did
little
as
bit
it
of
They
it.
might have
faded
like
out.
snip it.
And then it was
Yeah.
like faded out. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think again it wasn't their song, and so
Lawyers. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, because they went
exactly.
on for a few, like they did about 2 or 3, if I remember, because like
They may have.
They had Silent Night in there because it was starting to snow in Denver that night.
Yeah.
Right.
And then a couple other things they did, but like on the record, it kind of faded out. But I remember just that moment of, Reese is like, it's starting to snow. This is the moment. Let's sing Silent Night.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was, and then later on we've all found out that some kids had died going to the show, and
Mhm. Yep.
that was terrible. Yeah,
Yep.
but yeah, it was just kind of a crazy, and all of us were exhausted. We were just like, oh, I want to go home. We've
doubt.
been on tour for this long, and I had to drive home from Colorado because I had flown out a bunch of my gear. The guitar amps that were on the tour and stuff like that were mine because I wanted them to have, I wanted a certain deal for the recordings and stuff like that. So, yeah.
wow.
But anyway, I probably need to wrap up here real quick. But I was just going to
Yeah,
check
sure.
since Pete wasn't here the other day. I don't know. Pete, were you ever a 77s fan?
I was, yeah.
Okay, I'll show you this one thing here. This is so, and I don't know. I doubt Micro will ever hear this, but growing up, Micro was like on the Christian side of things. My 2 heroes were Micro, and after I met him and spent some time with Charlie Peacock.
Yeah.
Charlie is he's just literally one of the most wonderful guys, and they're both Sacramento, originally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, but Mike, I saw a lot of 77 shows, and then we did, like even if I think about like the highlights and lowlights of this career or this life that I've had, going on tour with the Lost Dogs was one of the highlights and the lowlights.
Oh wow, right.
So
right.
yeah, because we got Dime Store open for the Lost Dogs on the Green Room Serenade tour, and which is a brilliant album. I think the Lost Dogs were just brilliant, and I mean Terry, Eugene, Gene was on that tour,
Yeah.
and it was I'm not even kidding. There was more than one show that there was less than 10 people there. And I'm just like, wow. And we were the openers. And so it was so crazy. We also provided the production. We were carrying the PA. So we would set up the PA, then we would play, and I would literally just walk away from the board. I would sound check us and then just walk away from the board. Nobody ran the board during our set. And then the Lost Dogs would come on. I would go run sound for them. And then Sam, our bass player, would play bass with them. And that was the whole tour. And literally, like you do all that work. And one show that we did at State College in Pennsylvania, 2 people showed up.
Oh, wow.
Could Lost Dogs and Dime
My
Store,
goodness.
2 people there. Gene just came out and said, hey, we're just going to get a pizza for everybody.
Yeah.
We'll just get some pizzas and, we'll just play some music for you guys. Literally,
That's cool.
You 2 guys. You know what I mean?
How special is that for them, though? That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool, And I remember like one, just stuff like that happens, like stories like that, when you're touring. And I remember one show we did, this was us, Black Eyed Siva, and Sixpence.
Oh, wow.
And we were going into St. Louis, and there was literally a tornado warning going, and that show had 6 people there. You know what I mean? Sixpence, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like, wow, like maybe there was 10. You know what I mean? But it was, but it was literally a tornado warning. You know what I mean? And so, like, wow, somebody got to see a very, very intimate show with Sixpence. You know what I mean? And I just went and saw them just recently because they've been touring quite a bit. They were with Toad, the White Sprocket. And then they came to San Francisco and did their own show, and I got to catch up with them. And that was just really great. I love those guys. They're just wonderful people. But anyway, back to Mike Rowe. This is probably a show that a lot of people from this scene would have just died to see, so basically Josh Laurie, the guy that's with the Lifesavers guy, he put together a show, and basically it was Mike Knott as the Lifesavers, Dead Artist Syndrome, and then Mike Rowe solo. Okay. Which is, like for fans of the early Frontline, that's like just a monster lineup. There's probably about 40 people there. But I recorded the board mix, and then there was also a multi-track made that Josh did some mixing on and tried to release. But this is kind of like, out of my heroes that have been in the Christian music industry, Mike Rowe, just take a listen to this. This is straight from the board. I was mixing it, just him and a guitar, and it's beautiful.
I am a lonely sinning soul. Come down here, won't you? Come down here. Sipping my supper from an empty bowl. If you come down here, you can fill me full.
Wow.
Yeah, there's something magic about his vocal.
There lies inside of me a heart that's dark. Come down.
They're a band that should have
here,
made
won't you? Come
General Market.
down here.
Right.
They should.
Can't take the fire, but I'll take a spark. If you come down here, we can chase that dark. Come down here.
Great live finger picking,
Absolutely.
Good Lord. That's awesome.
I had nothing and I lost it all. Come down here.
I don't even know this is a cover song. I don't know the original. But.
Bad seed sowing's what I'm all about. If you come down here, we can work it out. Come down here. standing here shaking while my heart attacks. If you come down here, you can take it back. Come down here.
Yeah, it's just cool, you know.
Come down.
All right.
Yeah, you know, it's just like it's
That's
magic.
really nice.
Yeah, but we can probably just wrap it up there. And
Amazing. Thank you.
but this has been really
Thank
been
you
fun
so
for me.
much.
Yeah.
This is super fun for me. I love going down some memory lanes. So, you know, sometimes you don't like going down memory lane, but you know, my memory lane for me is all gratitude, and so it's a good space for me.
I just looked it up. Looks like that was a Mike Rowe song. It wasn't a cover.
Was it?
So
Oh,
Yep.
okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
and that's even more brilliance, right?
Yeah.
You know, because it's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Unless they're lying on DanielAmos.com, but
Yeah, I mean, Terry, you know, and those are some of the most overlooked. And Terry Taylor is
oh
brilliant.
man, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
met, you know, he's just so prolific. You know, that guy just, you know, he is really just phenomenally brilliant. You know, all those guys from that scene, the Lost Dogs. I mean, Gene Eugene was brilliant. You know, that song Jimmy, it's like, oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna cry. You know, like just, you know, the stuff that he, with Adam again and stuff. It's just, you know, you know, any one of those guys should have made it on the other side. You know what I mean? As far as the general goes. You know, I wouldn't say that about a lot of, you know, the modern day, you know, a lot of the, you know, there were a lot of great fun bands, but you know what I mean? I wouldn't say that about all the frontline bands, you know what I mean? Or something like that. But
Right.
there are some moments of brilliance, and really, you know, like shining stars that just never got to shine, you know?
Yeah. Something special about that time too.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, I hope I get to do this again.
Just one more thing, if
Yeah.
you have a minute, just one
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
question. Speaking of shining stars, the Shekinah Tones, were you involved?
Okay, so this is that is a great question, right? So yeah, I wasn't. I was more involved in production. That's it.
Okay.
And
Sure. Sounds
let
good.
me just say it's extreme blur for me because that was a one-off, right? It wasn't like an
Right.
album or anything. It was literally a
Shekinah
one-off.
Tones had 2 songs that appeared on the Take Time 4 sampler, and
Yeah.
not credited in the, you know, it was a big mystery. Who are these
Yeah.
guys? What's it all about? Why is my girlfriend whispering their name? Nobody
Yes.
knows, you know?
Yep. And yeah, so the funny thing is I remember 2 of the guys that were involved, and they were good friends of mine, and but that's all I remember. And it was just
Okay.
kind of at the time it was just kind of like, oh haha, you know, it's kind of novel. It's kind of like, you know, doing like the Wesley Willis track on the W thing. It's just another novel thing that we did. I mean,
Right.
for God's sakes, I did Cheeses of Nazareth, you know what I mean? So all that
Thank you
stuff was
for
just
it. Right.
yeah, you know, all that stuff was just, you know, like, hey, let's you know, let's do goofy things, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it was just one amongst the many
Sure.
goofy things that we did at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't have a strong burned in impression of that. I just remember thinking, oh, this is pretty funny, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And then that's about, I wish I could give you a little bit more info on that because now, you know,
all
'cause
right.
it has this weird lore, but yeah, that's about as far as I can get on that.
That's all right. Nobody else in the groups are talking, you know? I
Yeah.
think I may have asked once or twice, and they're just like, well, yeah, who knows? So,
Well, I'll
There
just
it
say
is.
it's because and from the 2 that I can remember, neither of them were actually really involved with music.
Okay.
So that's part of it.
Interesting.
That was part of it. Is just like it's not. These were not career musicians.
Okay.
complete unknown. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Completely.
Perfect.
So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was curious, wanted to ask. So
Yeah, no,
really
that's a
grateful
great question.
for you spending some time with us and taking the time. And it's from me sitting down trying to figure out why I couldn't make my guitar sound like a wah pedal because I didn't know what a wah pedal was yet. With Love Is Against the Grain, listening since high school, you've been with me in many ways in my musical life, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got good use out of that wah pedal. So, and it was not the Dunlop one. You know what I mean?
Is that right?
It was the Dunlop one. Doesn't sound like that at all. It was a DoD one, which they're not even known for making wah pedals. But I remember when I was like, I realized, like the Crybaby does not sound like this one. There's something different about how high up it goes in frequencies. And so I ended up buying a couple of them because I'm like, these might not last. They might not be around.
Got it. Yeah.
Oddly enough, I live in Benicia, California, and if you flip over a Crybaby, it'll say "Proudly made in Benicia, California."
Oh wow!
It's literally Dunlop is just down the street. So
how about that?
Yeah, it's an odd one, but yeah,
love it.
Amazing.
So, all right, guys. Well, I hope we get to do this again sometime, and
For sure, yeah, and looking forward to see you at Soulfest.
yes.
Kevin and I will be there.
Track me down. You may have to literally grab me because I'm one of those guys that walks with purpose.
Okay.
Because I'm usually like, I need to go put out a fire at this other stage.
Sure.
But feel free to just grab me.
Well, if you see a big bearded
Step
bald
in front
dude
of the
coming
wombat.
towards you, don't worry, it's just me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey, it's Micah's doppelganger.
Right. Oh, I love it. I'm honored. Thank you. I'm honored. Where did Micah go? He went to Soulfest. All right.
Yeah. All right.
And I'll have
Looking
a
forward to
Carmen
seeing
shirt
you
with me. So
yeah. All
Thank
right,
you so
guys.
much.
All right. Take care.
Appreciate
Thanks,
the time.
Saki.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
That's the news from Scabigon, where all the Pro Tools sessions are strong. All the vocal tracks and their tinged edges are beautiful. And all of Saki's production is above average.
Truly a ninja. Onward, pickle soldiers.
Onward.
another perfect podcast.
That's right. Thank you.
Still
Kev.
going in year 2.
Oh my gosh. That was special, guys. That was special.
That was very cool. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Later.
Bye. Welcome back to Just Kevin and Pete. Hi. That's the first time.
How's it going?
I know. Well, how's things in New England? Oh wait, I'm here too. Oh my gosh, that was special.